Chapter 2130. Yiqing Luo stepped on the back of Feng Ling's hand with increasing force. That ravishing face was blooming with a brilliant smile. As though the person who was stepping on Feng Ling's hand wasn't her. What? You can't bear to do it? Feng Ling stared at her mockingly. You know the importance of the Tranquility Pearl to you, so you don't dare to kill me, afraid that you can't get it, right? As she said that, she laughed to herself. The expression on her face was filled with viciousness and madness. Yiqing Luo, I've said this before, if you want to get the Tranquility Pearl, exchange it with Brother D. As long as you return Brother D to me, this Tranquility Pearl is yours. Feng Ling's sinister eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Miss Feng, you're a wanted criminal in the Nirvana realm. In this world, other than your grandmother, there's absolutely no one else who would help you. Yiqing Luo bent down and the force she used to step on Feng Ling's hand increased. Feng Ling grimaced in pain, but she didn't want to lose to Yiqing Luo, so she didn't make a sound. Yiqing Luo pretended not to notice Feng Ling's pain as her lips curled up and the weight of her body pressed down on her feet. She smiled lightly. Because of this, you won't believe anyone and you won't believe that any place is absolutely safe. Tranquility Pearl. Such an important thing used to threaten me, how could you not bring it with you? You. Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head and interrupted Feng Ling. Feng Ling, don't be in a hurry to deny it. I'm too confident in my own conjecture and can't wait to verify whether my conjecture is right or not. Her words paused as the smile on her lips became treacherous and bloodthirsty. Why don't I kill you now and turn over your internal organs, even your profound jade heart and heart, to see if I can find the Tranquility Pearl? When she finished her words, the smile enlarged in Feng Ling's eyes. Feng Ling, are you interested in helping me to test my conjecture? Feng Ling even forgot to cry out in pain as her eyes widened in disbelief, her eyes filled with shock. Feng Ling's face was filled with shock as her petite body trembled uncontrollably. The gaze she used to look at Yiqing Luo was filled with fear. This kind of woman. This kind of deranged, cruel and bloodthirsty monster. Why, did Brother D like her? Apart from the fact that her face could also seduce men. What was so good about her? She was a monster. Wendling's pupils shrank and her breathing quickened. Feng Ling knew Yiqing Luo's character. Yiqing Luo said she wanted to rummage through her internal organs, then she must be serious. Fear, the emotion of fear, continued to spread in his heart. Wendling shrank back in fear. He did not care about the scars all over his body. Calming Pearl? I'll give you the Calming Pearl? Feng Ling's terrified voice trembled. But, you have to promise me that you'll let me leave safely. I've always hated trouble. Yiqing Luo touched her chin and shook her head decisively. Wenchime's pupils shrank even more. I promise I won't cause trouble for you. Let me go. He looked at the woman who was begging him. On Yiqing Luo's face, there wasn't the slightest bit of change. Wenchime's promise could not be trusted. But, thinking of Dmo Xian, thinking of the scene of him and the Imperial Palace's old granny going against each other? She finally closed her eyes as she heaved a long sigh and said, Take out the Calming Pearl. Wendling's eyes lit up with joy as she immediately flipped her palm and placed it on her forehead. A burst of profound energy spread out from Wendling's palm. Chapter 2131. Yiqing Luo smirked as she raised her eyebrows and stared at Feng Ling's forehead. Feng Ling had actually hidden the tranquility bead in her own mental energy. As expected of a world spiritist, his spirit power was so powerful. It was her. There was absolutely no way for her to hide things in her mental power. She did not have such a strong spiritual power. Her spiritual power couldn't handle anything else. After Feng Ling took out the calming bead, she was so weak that she seemed to have no strength at all. She spread out her palm towards Yiqing Luo. Set heart pearl. Yiqing Luo's finger moved slightly. The gourd flame fan unfurled and drew out a profound wave. The tranquil pearl immediately fell into Yiqing Luo's palm. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she pinched the crystal-clear little bead and looked at it carefully. The tranquility bead was extremely cold. It was like a small piece of ice covering her palm. I've already given you the item now. Can I leave? Feng Ling used all her strength to growl. Her malevolent face and vicious eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Yes? You want to go back on your word? Feng Ling's face was filled with terror. Yiqing Luo, you promised me. Yiqing Luo maintained her enigmatic smile and didn't say a word. In reality, he was already calling out to Old Man Tsang in his heart, inquiring about the authenticity of this heart-calming bead. Yiqing Luo placed the tranquility pearl on the cherry blossom pattern on her arm. Old man Song sensed it and said with certainty, "This heart-calming bead is real, and it doesn't hide any other power." The last time when Yiqing Luo was schemed against by the dark forces, she placed the profound heart jade which contained profound yin qi into her body. Old man Song used 120% of his attention to examine anything that came from the outside. Deeply afraid that the situation of Yiqing Luo being controlled by Lao AI would happen once again. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. At least wind chimes knew her place. Her gaze swept past Feng Ling, who was curled up on the ground and shivering. Feng Ling met her gaze and cried out anxiously, "Yiqing Luo, I've already given you the calming orb. I won't bother you or Brother D anymore. I just want to live." She cried like a pear blossom in the rain. The cry for help was trembling. She kept choking with sobs. Windling continued to cry and beg for mercy. Yiqing Luo raised her hand to stop Feng Ling from making any noise. "All right, you may leave, sister." Yi Feng Yu frowned in disapproval. Letting Feng Ling go was definitely not a good thing for his sister. Yiqing Luo shook her head at him. Yi Feng Yu could only purse his lips and say no more. When Feng Ling heard this, her eyes lit up and she was wild with joy. Really? Then I'm leaving." Windling got up from the ground in a hurry. Her body was riddled with scars and she couldn't muster any strength at all. But the thought that Yiqing Luo was still looking at her. Feng Ling gritted her teeth and took a deep breath, concentrating all of her profound energy on her feet. Then he flew out of the Three Springs sect residence at lightning speed. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the horizon. Feng Ling, who had just used her breath to rush up the wall, flew back and crashed heavily into Madame Yuchi's bedroom. Feng Ling screamed in pain. His entire body was nearly smashed into pieces by this fall. "Yiqing Luo, you, how dare you lie to me?" Feng Ling was so angry that she gritted her teeth, her facial features were sinister as she stared in front. But the moment she opened her eyes, she met with a pair of eyes that were filled with disbelief and hatred. And blood, dripping onto her face. Chapter 2132. The tentacle was a sticky substance. It was blood. It was also a hand of rotten flesh. Feng Ling was unable to suppress the fear in her heart as she screamed in terror. What she pushed earlier was Madame Yuchi's corpse. It was Madame Yuchi's corpse. Feng Ling's smash earlier had accurately smashed onto Madame Yuchi's bed. Madame Yuchi's festering skin, coupled with the knife wound on her throat, was extremely horrifying. This scene almost drove Feng Ling crazy. Her hands were filled with fresh blood and Madame Yuchi's rotten flesh. Feng Ling only felt her stomach churning. Yiqing Luo, who was standing at the door, got a shock. She looked at Feng Ling, who was screaming crazily on Madame Yuchi's bed. She looked at the direction of the energy which attacked Feng Ling earlier. Before she had time to think deeply, an extremely familiar scent of sandalwood assaulted his nostrils. Instantly, it filled Yiqing Luo's nose. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly widened, overflowing with uncontrollable joy. Her waist was tightly wrapped by a strong and powerful arm, as though it wanted to merge into her body, hugging her tightly. "Ah Xian." Yiqing Luo's heart was thumping wildly. It was Ah Xian. Her Ah Xian was back. The man's elegant sandalwood scent, and the man's hormone scent, surrounded Yiqing Luo's body. His deep hoarse voice like a mellow wine, sweet and charming. "Lil Luo, I missed you." Just a few simple words made Yiqing Luo's heart soften suddenly. Her arms wrapped around his waist tightly, rubbing her little face on his chest. "I missed you too." Thinking about it, they were only separated for a few days. But in just a few days they already missed each other to the bone. "Why are you back? Have you settled the Imperial Palace's matter?" Yiqing Luo raised her head, gazing deeply at the man in front of her. After not seeing him for a long time, he was still that peerless, dignified and noble. His forehead was still dripping with a thin layer of sweat. A few strands of black hair, scattered in front of his forehead, stuck by the sweat. It added a trace of evil charm to his beauty. Diamo Xian lowered his head, kissing her hard on her lips, settled. His kiss wasn't considered gentle, but it made her body tremble as if she had been electrocuted. Her little hands unconsciously clenched the front of Diamo Xian's clothes. Miss him. Miss her. This kiss conveyed the longing of the two people. Then wind chimes' furious shouts came from Madame Yuchi's room. "Big Brother D. Brother D, it's you." The two of them kissed each other until they couldn't separate from each other. Diamo Xian greedily stared at the charming face in front of him, as if inviting him to continue. His body tensed up. A ball of nameless flame surged towards the direction where he was squeezed 3 inches down. How could Yiqing Luo not understand the yearning in the man's eyes? She rolled her eyes and pushed Dmo Xian away. This beast was really thinking about that matter all the time. Stop fooling around. Fengling is still there. She was not that hardcore to do a live broadcast in front of others. Dmo Xian gave her another 2 ferocious pecks before releasing her. Then he shifted his gaze to the woman in the room. It was just a momentary change. Dmo Xian's gaze was cold. The flame on his entire body at this moment was like an ice mountain covering him. Fengling's heart was in pain. All of a sudden she thought of a sentence. Her big brother D wasn't warm. It was just that the person he wanted to be warm to was not her. Her lips trembled slightly, and after some time she found her voice. Brother D, earlier it was you who stopped me. Chapter 2133. As long as Dmo Xian said no, she would believe him unconditionally. Fengling's hopeful gaze stared unblinkingly at Dmo Xian. His face was so handsome that it took her breath away. She couldn't hide her love for him. His face moved her heart. Any factors that could harm Lil Luo must be eliminated. Dmo Xian said indifferently. This answer also admitted that the person who attacked Fengling just now was him. Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo as he looked at Fengling calmly, without a single trace of emotion in his eyes. Fengling, this lord has said this before, this lord has put up with it on account of Grandma's face, but time and time again you want to put Lil Luo to death. He paused and enunciated each word icily. So, anything that threatens Lil Luo that hurts Lil Luo this lord will personally shatter. Fengling's face instantly turned as pale as paper. She widened her eyes in disbelief, tears gushing out of her eyes as she shook her head frantically. I don't believe it. Brother D, I don't believe it. You're my brother D. Brother D wouldn't want my life for another woman. Dmo Xian looked at the tearful Fengling indifferently. He did not show the slightest bit of emotion. Fengling, I'll hang your head at the entrance of the Wind Emperor Palace. After Fengling and Imperial Palace's old granny made a move on Yiqing Luo time and time again. In the Imperial Palace, Granny and Winshim took advantage of his absence to disperse most of the Imperial Palace's forces and built their own palace, establishing the Wind Imperial Palace. Their friendship had long since been severed. Fengling stared at Dmo Xian in shock. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Yiqing Luo, whom she viewed as her enemy, let her off. Brother D, whom she regarded as her lover and who was loyal to her, wanted to kill her. How ironic was this? Fengling's despairing gaze did not evoke a trace of sympathy or pity from Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian glanced sideways, the flames on his body and the contours of his face had softened. His thin lips curled up as he said warmly, Lil Luo wait for me at the door. It will be done in a while. Yiqing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's sleeve. Ah Xian no? She knew that Dmo Xian was doing all this for her. However, she valued Dmo Xian. Just like how Dmo Xian valued her and was willing to go against his own elders for her. She did not wish for Dmo Xian to make a decision that he would regret in the future. Lil Luo, wait for me obediently. Dmo Xian bowed his head, sealing her words. When his lips parted from hers, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Madame Yuchi's door suddenly closed. Before her eyes, Dmo Xian's figure had already disappeared. Yiqing Luo's fingers clenched tightly as she bit her lower lip lightly, looking at the tightly shut door. She sighed softly. Ah Xian was really going to give up the past. If it was her. Could she give up everything for Ah Xian? Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes trembled slightly. Even she herself was unable to answer this question. Ah Xian really loved her. To be able to meet and fall in love with Ah Xian in this life was her greatest fortune. In the room, Windling was still begging for mercy. With a sobbing tone, she expressed her feelings towards Dmo Xian. But it was still unable to stop Dmo Xian's advance. Windling's heart was like dead ashes as her hatred and jealousy towards Yiqing Luo soared at this instance. Brother D, don't tell me? Don't tell me you really have the heart to do this to little Ling? Don't tell me you really don't care about Grandma's feelings? Windling sobbed softly. Chapter 2134. Dmo Xian looked at Fengling calmly. There wasn't a trace of emotion in his deep obsidian black eyes. That was a whirlpool covered with frost. Even if one was sucked in, they would die without a burial ground, but it still made one want to sink into the brilliance. Feng Ling's heart felt as though it was gripped tightly by a cold hand. She stared at Diamo Xian's face in a daze. Tears rolled down from the corner of her eyes. Her pitiful look couldn't move the man in front of her. After a few breaths, Diamo Xian walked to the bedside. Feng Ling looked at him with love and hate. Her pale lips were trembling. She clutched the blanket tightly. She didn't care that the blanket was covered with Madame Yuchi's blood. Feng Ling understood Diamo Xian's character very well. No one could change the things that Diamo Xian had decided on. If Diamo Xian wanted to kill her, in that case he would really kill her. Feng Ling raised her head and looked at the godlike man. Her lips trembled as she asked, "Brother D, before I die, I only want to know one thing. From the beginning to the end, did you ever have a place for Shaoling in your heart?" Diamo Xian stopped in his tracks. His icy cold gaze swept past Feng Ling's face emotionlessly. His thin lips moved slightly as he said word by word, "Never." Feng Ling's pupils contracted as she laughed bitterly. Tears blurred her eyes. She shut her eyes in despair as she laughed bitterly. "You kill me. To die in Brother D's hands, it's considered fulfilling one of my dreams." Diamo Xian raised his hand as profound energy gathered in his palm. In his heart, the only thing that could stay was Yiqing Luo. You could say that he was heartless or cold-hearted. He would never exert a shred of affection on unimportant people. Feng Ling could clearly sense that powerful profound energy. Her tears started to flow more violently. She thought that she would show weakness and show her feelings like this. On account of their past relationship, Diamo Xian would at least spare her life. But, she said so much, but it still couldn't make Diamo Xian waver. Was his heart really made of stone? Feng Ling really wanted to dig out his heart to see how hard his heart was. The surging profound energy came crashing down. Wind Chime's heart leaped into her throat. He wanted to resist, but he was powerless. He could only close his eyes and wait for death to come. Suddenly, Feng Ling did not feel the tearing pain that she had been waiting for. Instead, she felt her body lighten. She was dragged into an embrace by some unknown force. Feng Ling opened her eyes in delight. "Brother D," before he could finish, the smile on Windling's face froze. "Little Ling." The old voice was extremely dignified. His sinister, wrinkled face was filled with anger. Feng Ling's heart skipped a beat. Tears kept gushing out. She suddenly leaned forward and cried bitterly, "Grandma, Grandma." The anger on the Imperial Palace's grandma's face finally subsided after hearing her granddaughter's cries. She lifted her withered hand and gently patted Feng Ling's back. She blamed her granddaughter for getting herself into such a state for a man. But at the same time he felt sorry for his granddaughter. Listening to Feng Ling's cries, the heart of the Imperial Palace's granny also tightened. The Imperial Palace's granny clenched her teeth as she raised her sinister cold eyes and stared at the man in front of her. Diamo Xian's palm strike earlier landed on thin air. The entire bed was blasted into smithereens. It could be seen that Diamo Xian's palm strike earlier was totally merciless. He really wanted to kill Feng Ling. Diamo Xian. Chapter 2135. Diamo Xian's deep eyes were cold and stern. "Grandma, long time no see. Do you still have me in your heart?" The Imperial Palace's grandma was furious. Diamo Xian looked at her calmly. "This lord has yet to congratulate Grandma for becoming the Wind Emperor's grandma and taking charge of your own Wind Emperor Palace. You, Granny of the Imperial Palace. No, she should be called Granny Wind Empress now." Granny Feng Di stared fiercely at Diamo Xian as the fury in her heart made her eyes red. "Diamo Xian, Granny has protected you for so many years, I'd not expected that. For a woman, you actually treat Granny like this. Good. Grandma has raised an ingrate." Granny Wind Emperor's chi and blood surged. After shouting this, he couldn't help but cough violently. Diamo Xian remained expressionless. There was not a trace of emotion in his eyes. Xian. Outside the door, Yiqing Luo heard the commotion in the house. He also heard his grandmother's furious curses. Yiqing Luo immediately pushed open the door and rushed in. As expected, he saw Granny Wind Emperor carrying Feng Ling in her arms, standing face to face with Diamo Xian. "Little vixen, how dare you appear in front of me?" The minute Granny Wind Emperor saw Yiqing Luo, all the suppressed anger in her chest exploded at this instance. Granny Wind Emperor let out a furious roar. Around Granny Wind Emperor's body, countless surging and thick profound energies surged. One after another, it blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it slammed down towards Yiqing Luo's direction. "How dare you? Diamo Xian's eyes turned cold as he rebuked in a low voice. The purple sleeves were like rolling clouds, stirring up all the surrounding air currents. Bang bang bang. A deafening collision sound rang out. Madame Yuchi's bedroom was blasted apart by the two powerful dark forces. Yiqing Luo's delicate body was brought into Diamo Xian's embrace. He waved his sleeve again. The profound energy released by Granny Wind Monarch was easily suppressed. Granny Wind Emperor dodged in time, so she wasn't hurt by her own profound energy. Diamo Xian. Granny Wind Emperor's face was gloomy, her malicious eyes were filled with a biting cold sharpness. Diamo Xian shielded Yiqing Luo behind him. The frost on his face was so thick that ice shards could fall off. That pair of deep ink-like eyes were dark and gloomy, and they were bone-chilling. It was as if his eyes had just swept past them. He would fall into an endless ice cellar. Even Granny Wind Emperor couldn't help but feel shocked. The last time in the blazing flame nest, Diamo Xian had already shown mercy. But that time, even if she had shown mercy, she could clearly feel the disparity between her and Diamo Xian. What she relied on? It was just that Diamo Xian had once been taken care of by her in Nirvana realm for a few months. Diamo Xian didn't care about this. Then, Granny Wind Emperor shivered and did not dare to continue thinking about it. With this lord around, whoever dares to lay a hand on little Luo, will be making an enemy out of this lord. Diamo Xian looked at Granny Wind Emperor coldly. His icy cold gaze was extremely oppressive. Granny Wind Emperor's face turned pale. She hugged Feng Ling tightly. Her eyes flashed and she suddenly stepped back. Then his figure flashed and he was about to leave. Diamo Xian's eyes turned sharp as he gave off a burst of murderous aura, trying to hurt little Luo and still dare to run? He let go of Yiqing Luo and the wind under his feet chased after her. His palm wind was about to land on Granny Wind Emperor, blocking the both of them. Suddenly, a burst of powerful black energy descended from the sky, blocking in front of Granny Wind Emperor. Diamo Xian's palm landed on that black energy. Immediately following that, an indistinct, unreal figure appeared in that ball of black energy. Chapter 2136. The moment that shadow appeared. Granny Wind Monarch carried Feng Ling as she took the opportunity to escape. Diamo Xian wanted to chase after her but was entangled by that ball of black energy once again. Diamo Xian's brows creased tightly as he looked at the direction where Granny Wind Monarch's figure disappeared. He waved his sleeves impatiently as he split apart the black energy. This time, the black energy didn't continue to tangle with Diamo Xian. Instead, it gathered towards the direction of that blurry shadow in the void. The more it gathered, the fainter that shadow became. Diamo Xian's expression instantly sunk. This thing, why did it feel like? Could it be? Diamo Xian's heart suddenly tightened. Nirvana realm looked like it was getting more and more chaotic. Did the people from the upper realm really think that God realm no longer existed? The black energy slowly dissipated in midair. Along with that blurry shadow, it also disappeared. Yiqing Luo looked at the direction where that shadow disappeared in shock as she felt extremely astonished. There was actually something that could block Diamo Xian's palm. Furthermore, it was able to tangle with Diamo Xian and successfully escape. That thing, what on earth was it? And that shadow, what on earth was it? Yiqing Luo was filled with puzzlement as she looked at Diamo Xian. She instantly threw it to the back of her mind. Side profile kill. Because of the battle between Diamo Xian and Granny Wind Monarch as well as that black energy. The pitch-black sky kept on flashing with lightning, tearing a huge hole. Lightning lit up as it shone on Diamo Xian. That tall and straight figure, his purple luxurious robe seemed to be plated with a layer of light. It showed his nobility and elegance. Perhaps Diamo Xian was deep in thought, that peerless handsome face, his side profile was extremely cold, giving off a suffocating sense of oppression. Tightly pursed thin lips, the lip lines were alluring as though inviting her to come forward to have a taste. Hence, Yiqing Luo's mind was filled with a man's charms. He had no moral principles. He had no bottom line. In front of a beauty, everything could be thrown away. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo rushed forward and hugged Diamo Xian's waist. Oh, my man is so handsome, so handsome. The young lady's sweet voice was filled with love and possessiveness, successfully pleasing Diamo Xian. He turned around and wrapped an arm around her soft body. Yiqing Luo cooperated as her arms circled around his neck, her charming eyes sparkling. Tiptoeing, Yiqing Luo's pink lips pressed onto Diamo Xian's. She kissed him on the lips and sucked on his lips like how he usually did to her. That sentence, "You hurt Lil Luo, and you still want to run," was enough to make Sue explode. After Yiqing Luo sucked on it, she moved her head away and leaned towards his shoulder. Oh, my maiden's heart has swelled up. Xian, how can you be so handsome? The other party was Granny Wind Empress. Dmo Xian had repeatedly laid his hands on Granny Wind Emperor for her. This is also using action to show. In the future, when she met Granny Wind Emperor and her granddaughter again, she didn't need to show any mercy at all. Ever since the founding of the Wind Emperor Palace, the so-called friendship between them had long since vanished into thin air. This man, the way he was always thinking about her, was so handsome. Since I'm so handsome, would you be satisfied with just a kiss? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up slightly as he looked at the young lady's sparkling adoring gaze. His heart became extremely soft. He suppressed his magnetic voice as he panted with a trace of emotion. Lil Luo, just a kiss, are you really satisfied? He circled Yiqing Luo's waist tightly as his large palm directly clasped onto the back of Yiqing Luo's head. Chapter 2137. The young lady's face was flushed red, like a budding flower. The same tender, sparkling red lips seemed to be tempting to approach. The man's scorching temperature scorched Yiqing Luo's body. Her eyelashes fluttered as she realized something, trying to break free from his hand and avert her gaze. But the man's strength was too strong. How could she break free? The back of her head was firmly fixed in the man's broad palm. Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned even redder. The man's pheromones enveloped her in an overwhelming manner. Yiqing Luo's fingers unconsciously curled up, clutching the collar in front of his chest. Her delicate body softly fell into Dmo Xian's arms. You torturous little demoness, you only know how to seduce me. Yiqing Luo bit her lips, staring at him. Only when this man's gaze locked onto her. Her entire body went soft, panting heavily, her heart beating rapidly. This man was really poisonous. He was a demoness who made her want but not able. I'm only seducing you. Dmo Xian's large palm held her face. Following that, he kissed her deeply. His actions were gentle, bit by bit, guiding her to respond. A soft peace licked open her trembling pink lips. His low hoarse voice bewitchingly came from her lips. Lil Luo, is there anything important tomorrow? Yiqing Luo was unable to control her tender panting and moaning. Hearing Dmo Xian's words, Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled violently. How could she not understand the meaning of his words? Her fingers tightened again as her charming eyes were filled with a layer of mist, revealing a hint of wetness. Evildoer. Stinky evildoer. Lil Luo, if you don't answer, it means that you've tacitly agreed. There's nothing tomorrow, Dmo Xian laughed softly beside her ear. His slightly trembling body, an extremely hard texture, rubbed against her petite body. Right now she was already ignited by the man. She was extremely sensitive and could feel the toughness of his body. Especially the man's ending tone, the last completely made her body limp and powerless. She forcefully held on as her fingers grabbed his clothes tightly, raising her misty eyes, staring at him. On her lips was his saliva. Dmo Xian, you're dead meat tonight. She forcefully pulled his body towards her. Go back to my room. Dmo Xian's deep inky eyes flickered with a red gleam. Two thin lips kissed her forcefully. His hands encircled her tightly. Yiqing Luo only felt a cold breeze on her cheek. Before he could react, her body was already pressed down to the ground. It was a soft bed and a familiar scent. This is her room. Looking at the peerless face on his body, he felt a chill run down his spine. Yiqing Luo's fingers tugged hard as she forcefully kissed his lips. See how I deal with you. The next day, when Yiqing Luo woke up, it was already noon. She felt sore all over and stretched lazily. He struggled to get up from the bedding. The next moment, her body, along with the bedding, was encircled into the man's warm embrace. Little Luo, good morning? A man's hoarse voice rang in her ears. Yiqing Luo lazily closed her eyes and leaned her weight on the man. Ah Xian, it's all your fault, I'm almost drained by you. Dmo Xian laughed out loud. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes were flowing with amorous ripples. He whispered, yes, it's my fault. So as punishment, I have to help you wash up and change your clothes. Xiao Yu and the rest are waiting for you. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly opened. That's right. She had forgotten. Xiao Yu had just inherited the position of Three Springs Sect's patriarch yesterday. Three Springs Sect had to be reorganized once again. And Yi Fengru's matter had yet to be confirmed. Chapter 2138. By the time Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian reached the main hall, it was already 1 hour later. Stepping into the hall, Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings of the hall. Yi Fengyu was sitting in the main seat. Behind Yi Fengyu stood Yi Fengru, who was dressed in a simple yet elegant robe. His head was lowered and his thoughts were blank. Ziling stood beside him. The lower seats on the right side of the hall were occupied by the sect elders. He did not see the figure of the old ancestor. When the two of them entered, Yi Fengyu stood up and wanted to welcome them. Before he could walk down from the main seat, he saw Yiqing Luo leaning lazily on Dmo Xian's shoulder, yawning as she walked to the soft chair by the side to sit down. Yi Fengyu halted his steps. Although he was still young with the status of the Yi family, he had long known about this matter. Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've seen a pig run. In the past, the students in the academy were all only 13 or 14 years old, and they all had several servant girls who served as servants. After such a long time, Yi Fengyu more or less understood some things. Seeing Yiqing Luo in this state appearing in the main hall, everyone knew what had happened last night. Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo and sat down on the two-seater soft chair. Yi Fengyu then regained his senses and hurriedly stood up to greet Dmo Xian brother-in-law. The others also stood up and bowed towards Dmo Xian. We pay our respects to the overlord. Yi Fengyu's voice overlapped with everyone else's. When the sect's elders saw Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian walking hand in hand into the main hall, his heart leapt up to his throat. When she heard how Yi Fengyu addressed Dmo Xian, his old face instantly turned pale. Dizun brother-in-law? Brother-in-law? The overlord? And Yiqing Luo? What kind of relationship? Although, he had heard that the overlord had spent the night in Yiqing Luo's courtyard. He had also heard that Yi Fengyu had asked Ziling to summon Yiqing Luo several times, but was always blocked by the overlord. A man and a woman alone in a room at night. The next day the woman fell into a deep sleep. As someone who had lived for hundreds of years, how could he not guess what had happened last night? But, in the hearts of the sect elders, Dizun was high and mighty. He was a legendary figure. Compared to Yiqing Luo, that kind of 15-year-old yellow-haired little lass who hadn't even fully grown her hair at most. She could only play around. After all, Yiqing Luo's face was indeed a source of calamity. He also had the capital to bring calamity to the country and the people. However, when she heard Yi Fengyu call her brother-in-law, she felt a chill run down her spine. The elders of the sect panicked. We're all a family, no need for formalities. Dmo Xian said indifferently. Yi Fengyu's lips curled into a smile. He returned to his seat and sat down again. His face was filled with joy from seeing his sister and brother-in-law's good relationship. Big sister, actually, after knowing that brother-in-law has come, I didn't want to disturb you, but I've just inherited the position of sect master, and there are many things in the sect that haven't been resolved yet. The sect elders insisted that I consult you. In front of Yiqing Luo, Yi Fengyu behaved like a normal child. His eyes were filled with dependence towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo yawned lazily and casually swept a glance at the sweating sect elders. Since the sect elders have come out of seclusion, and little Yu is still young and inexperienced. The sect elders are the only elders of the sect, and the living signboard of Three Springs Sect. Little Yu has just inherited the position. The sect elders should be helping him by the side, isn't it? Chapter 2139. Seventh Miss is right, I am the only elder of Three Springs Sect. I have the obligation to help the patriarch grow. The sect elder replied while wiping his sweat with trepidation. Yiqing Luo nodded in satisfaction and glanced at Yi Fengru. Second young master, since you are standing here now, then I will take it as you have chosen the future you want. The man who was mentioned suddenly tensed up. He raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Yi Fengru, who had experienced many changes, was no longer the same as before. That handsome face that had always been gentle and refined had been replaced by a cold and expressionless face. His eyes were as calm as still water, as if there was no ripple in his heart. Only when he looked at Yiqing Luo, there was a trace of fluctuation in his eyes. Yiqing Luo lazily shifted her body and found a comfortable position in Dmo Xian's embrace. Immediately she picked up the teacup by the side. Yi Fengru, since you've already made your choice, I'll give you this chance. Steam curled up from the teacup. It made her beautiful face look hazy and mysterious. She took a sip of the tea. The fragrance was rich. She closed her eyes in satisfaction and continued, "Remember, you no longer have the next Baiming clan. I will use my life to save you." The atmosphere in the hall suddenly froze. The cold light eroded everything around. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes and could clearly feel the chill coming from Yifeng Ru. She raised her eyebrows and opened her eyes. Diamo Xian had taken away the teacup from her fingertips and put it back on the coffee table. His slender fingers grasped her hand. The warm interaction was not affected by Yifeng Ru at all. Second brother. Yifeng Yu felt the atmosphere was oppressive and quickly turned to look at Yifeng Ru, calling out with a smile. At the same time when Yifeng Yu called out, "Second brother," Yifeng Ru's cold eyes blinked. In that instant, the cold light emanating from his body disappeared without a trace. All the arrogance was restrained. Yifeng Ru clenched his hands and took a step back, standing behind Yifeng Yu. Yifeng Yu heaved a sigh of relief, raised a smile and looked at Yiqing Luo. "Elder sister, second brother he?" Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped his pleading. Yifeng Yu was close to Yiqing Luo and also revered her. Immediately, he lowered his head and did not dare to speak again. Yifeng Ru. Yiqing Luo's sweet voice was devoid of any emotion. Yifeng Ru clasped his hands together respectfully. "I didn't mention the Baiming clan because I wanted to poke at your scars." Yiqing Luo sat up slightly and looked at him seriously. "I only want to tell you one thing. Bei Mingshi used her own life to exchange for a chance for you to live on properly. If you really care about Bei Mingshi, then for her, along with her share, live on together." Yiqing Luo's expression turned serious as she looked at Yiqing Luo. Yifeng Ru's pupils constricted, and the veins on his clenched fists bulged. Yiqing Luo replied calmly, "If your current submission is because you secretly have some thoughts that you shouldn't have, then don't blame me for disregarding the Baiming clan's relationship and sending you down to meet the Baiming clan." After a pause, she lowered her voice and sounded a little ethereal. "Don't waste the chance that the Baiming clan fought for you." Yifeng Ru's body tensed up. The fists hanging by his sides were almost embedded deep into his bones. Yiqing Luo didn't speak again. Yifeng Ru didn't give any response. The atmosphere in the entire hall seemed to have sunk into a low pressure. The few of them felt that even breathing had become difficult. Chapter 2140. After some time, Yifeng Ru, who had been tensed up as though he was suppressing something, slowly moved. His body in that instance relaxed. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past an undetectable smile. The next moment, Yifeng Ru knelt down towards Yiqing Luo's direction. "I will abide by my mother's dying wish to live for 7th Mississippi." His voice wasn't loud, but it was sonorous and filled with determination. A pair of eyes which had no desires, was still like water, making one unable to distinguish clearly. What he said, was it true or false? Yifeng Ru looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking as he spat out every single word clearly. "My mother said my future is to live for 7th Mississippi. But, by 7th Miss side there's the world group, devil class and also from various continents, famous and promising experts and—" He paused as his gaze swept past Diamo Xian and back to Yiqing Luo. "There's also the Overlord to protect you. You actually don't need my presence by your side. I know you value Sect Master very much, and also treat Sect Master as your own brother and dote on him. So, I choose to stay in Three Springs Sect to assist Sect Master." "Second brother?" Yifeng Yu abruptly stood up as he bent over to support Yifeng Ru. Yifeng Ru shook his head as he looked at Yiqing Luo stubbornly. "7th Miss can choose not to believe me, but I think me staying in Three Springs Sect is the result you want." "No." Yiqing Luo lightly curled her lips as her sleeves moved, an invisible airflow struck towards Yifeng Ru's legs. Yifeng Ru's body was lifted up as he slowly stood up. Yifeng Yu immediately supported him. "I believe you." Yiqing Luo looked at Yifeng Ru calmly. "I can feel the relationship between you and your mother very clearly, and I believe that you will help me protect Xiao Yu for your mother." Yifeng Ru's eyes lit up as though he couldn't believe that Yiqing Luo actually believed him. In his pupils, there seemed to be a dazzling luster faintly floating. His heart also calmed down. He bowed his waist towards Yiqing Luo's direction and following that, he retreated back to his original position. Yifeng Yu looked at Yifeng Ru's respectful demeanor, neither servile nor overbearing. His thin lips moved as if he wanted to say something. But Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and called out to him, "Little Yu, with Yifeng Ru's help and the guidance of the sect's elders, the reorganization of Three Springs sect will not be a problem. Yes. Yi Fengyu nodded and looked at Yi Qing Luo. But sister, if I inherit Three Springs sect, the Heavenly Academy, I will discuss this matter with the Academy. Master Guiyu is your master. If he is willing, he can come to Three Springs sect to personally guide you when the Academy has no classes. Yi Qing Luo had considered this point before. A sect could not be without a leader for even a day. If Yi Fengyu went to the Black Academy for lessons, he could only come back for 3 days a month. Yi Fengyu's ability had improved rapidly in recent times. But his aptitude hasn't been completely activated yet, so he can't compare with the two brothers of the Mu family. Naturally, they couldn't be like the Mu brothers who could go to the academy whenever they wanted, and busy themselves at home whenever they wanted to be busy. The only way was, let Master Guiyu come to teach. Master Guiyu was only teaching the devil class. Long Yunzhan and the rest were watching over the devil class. If Master Guiyu was willing, he could spare 1 to 4 hours a day and that would be enough. Chapter 2141. The matters in the West Continent have stabilized. The Heavenly Academy should be gathering the students to return soon. Yi Qing Luo calculated the time. I will have a good talk with Master Guiyu. Yes. Yi Fengyu nodded excitedly. He was already very proud and happy to be the disciple of Master Guiyu. If Master Guiyu could give him special treatment, he would be so excited that he could fly to the sky. Yi Qing Luo's body softened as she leaned back into Diamo Xian's arms. She glanced at the sect elder. With Yi Fengru and the elder around, there is no need to specially come to me for the Three Springs sect's matters. You can decide for yourselves. After all, it was a fact that she was not a member of the Yi family. If there were people from the Three Springs sect, she would handle it herself. She would try not to interfere if she could. People would always change. Even she would change according to the environment. The current Xiaoyu was full of trust and dependence on her. But most of the time she would not be by his side. No one knew what the future would bring. If she interfered too much in Three Springs sect's matters. In the future there would be people who would constantly brainwash Xiaoyu. Perhaps 1 person would wash, 2 people would wash, 3 people would wash. Xiaoyu would not believe it. But when 100 people, 1,000 people, or even 10,000 people stood in front of him, telling him that everything Yi Qing Luo did was to get Three Springs sect, to use him to control Three Springs sect and so on and so forth. At that time, could Xiaoyu's heart still hold on? The future was unpredictable. The only thing she could do was to prevent all these from happening. She would try her best to ignore the Three Springs sect's matters. In the past few years, Yi Fengru had been the butler of the Yi family's backyard and was able to cultivate a group of his own forces without anyone noticing. It was enough to prove that Yi Fengru was courageous and intelligent. With Yi Fengru as his advisor, Yi Fengyu definitely wouldn't take too many detours. In addition, there was the sect elder, an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, a sky mystic overlord. If they wanted to attack the Three Springs sect while the successor to the throne was a young man, then they would have to be prepared to be annihilated. Today Diamo Xian showed his face. Even if the sect elders felt indignant. Even so, he had to swallow it. Is there anything else? Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly. Yi Fengyu scratched the back of his head as he glanced at Diamo Xian and was about to open his mouth. Behind her, Ziling, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Miss, you're leaving the Three Springs sect again, right?" Hearing the little lass's aggrieved voice, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She looked at Ziling and said with a smile, "Ling, you have recovered well and your talent is not bad. If you cultivate well, you will definitely have your own world in the Nirvana realm in the future. But Ling only wants to stay by Miss' side." Linger's life was saved by young Miss, Linger's legs were healed by young Miss, and everything Ling has today was bestowed by young Miss. Ling wants to accompany young Miss, protect young Miss, protect young Miss. Ziling's eyes were misty with tears, and her voice carried a hint of sobbing. Ever since Yi Qing Luo could cultivate, the time she spent with Yi Qing Luo was getting lesser and lesser. Especially after Yi Qing Luo went to the Heavenly Academy. Yi Qing Luo seemed to have forgotten about her. Now, young Miss had gone further and further away. Chapter 2142. Yi Qing Luo looked at the weeping Ziling. Yi Qing Luo smiled helplessly. "Ling, did you understand what Yi Fengru said just now?" Ziling blinked her tearful eyes and looked at Yi Qing Luo blankly. "What second young master said just now?" He said there were too many powerful people around Mississippi. She didn't need someone like him around her. Even second young master wasn't qualified to stay by her side. Then, wouldn't she be even less qualified to follow Miss? Yiqing Luo looked at Ziling's expression and became more and more depressed. Yiqing Luo knew that this girl was thinking the wrong way. She patted the hand that was playing with her hair around her waist. Dmo Xian let go of her obediently. She got up and walked to Ziling. He raised his hand and gently caressed Ziling's head. Silly Ling Air, what I mean is, you should choose to stay in the Three Springs sect like Yi Fengru and protect little you for me. Linger understands? I understand. Ziling's cheeks subconsciously blushed as she watched her miss approach. Her eyes widened and almost greedily looked at Miss's beautiful face. She didn't know how long it had been since she saw Miss up close. As she got closer, the young Miss's charm, which made people submit to her, came pressing down on them in an overwhelming manner. Don't worry about me. If you want to repay me, then take good care of little you for me. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and deliberately got closer to Ziling unexpectedly. Her flirting skills were quite good. She hadn't even flirted much. The little girl's face turned red. Just when Yiqing Luo was ready to continue to flirt with this girl, suddenly, a clear and cold voice called out quietly from behind him. Little Luo. Yiqing Luo felt a chill down her spine. She stood up straight. The hand that was around Ziling's shoulder slowly moved down. Then step by step she stepped back. Bang. Her back was knocked into a hard embrace. Yiqing Luo hugged his arm and lowered her voice. Don't tell me you're jealous of a little girl? Dmo Xian lowered his head and leaned over her shoulder. What do you think? Alright, you're the prettiest. Who asked me to love beauties the most? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, turned around and threw herself into Dmo Xian's arms. Alright, if there's nothing else, carry me back to the room to catch up on my sleep. I'm so sleepy. Dmo Xian helplessly looked at the coquettish young lady in his arms, his eyes filled with indulgence. He wrapped his arms around the girl's waist and carefully lifted her up. Yiqing Luo's arms wrapped around his neck as she nestled in his arms and closed her eyes. Dmo Xian turned and walked towards the door. Wait. Brother-in-law, wait. Yi Fengyu hurriedly got up from his seat and rushed to Dmo Xian's side. Dmo Xian's footsteps halted as he turned around and looked at him. Yi Fengyu raised his head and coincidentally met with Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes. Startled, he took a few steps back. Black eyes, black hair, a face of peerless elegance. Just by standing there quietly, he exuded a majestic aura. That domineering aura, that demonic charm was like a poppy, extremely dangerous but made people involuntarily sink into it. Even though he knew that Dmo Xian's brother-in-law was his brother-in-law. On account of his sister's face, he would never make a move against him. But in the face of such a powerful Dmo Xian, Yi Fengyu, this child would still feel fear. Chapter 2143. However, no matter how gentle Dmo Xian was, those who couldn't withstand his aura, nor could she feel his gentleness. Yi Fengyu fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva, took a deep breath and said in a trembling voice, That, brother-in-law, I have a question to ask you. When he finished his words, he seemed to be afraid that Dmo Xian would be angry and immediately pointed at Yiqing Luo. Regarding sister's matter, Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and grabbed Dmo Xian's face. Her little body shifted in his embrace and she propped herself up. In his arms, face to face with him. Her hands pinched both sides of Dmo Xian's cheeks as she tilted her head, revealing a brilliant smile. Ah Xian, don't scare little you, give me a smile. Dmo Xian was rather helpless. He was already trying his best to suppress his aura. However, Yi Fengyu's mental fortitude was too weak. What could he do? He was also in despair. That brat Yi Fengyu, who was sitting on the main seat and looking at him, was still fine. Why was he behaving like this when he was right in front of him? Could it be that his future brother-in-law was deliberately making things difficult for him? He looked at his sister, who was constantly rubbing Di Zun's face with her hands. And Di Zun had a doting look on his face. Yi Fengyu felt like he had been fed a mouthful of dog food. Look at how much Di Zun's brother-in-law dotes on his sister. What was there to be afraid of? Di Zun's brother-in-law was obviously a henpecked husband. Therefore Yi Fengyu closed his eyes, steeled his heart, and roared out the words that he had been suppressing in his heart for a long time. Brother-in-law Di Zun, when do you plan to become my real brother-in-law? All was silent. The entire hall fell into a deathly silence. Yiqing Luo's hand, which was pinching Dmo Xian's face, froze. She looked at Yi Fengyu in shock. not understanding why he would ask such a question. Diamo Xian was stunned for a moment and lowered his eyes to look at the young lady in his arms. His answer depended on her attitude. But when he saw the shock in the young girl's eyes, it was as if she had never thought of this problem before. Diamo Xian's heart was indescribably upset. He tightened his arms and increased the strength of his arms. On the surface he still maintained a gentle smile. "Little you, why do you ask?" Yiqing Luo nodded her head repeatedly as she stared at him with wide eyes. Right. Why would he ask that? Was little you urging them to get married? Yi Fengyu watched the two of them respond to this question. The atmosphere was obviously strange. His little heart couldn't stop beating wildly. Did I ask the wrong question? Not waiting for Yi Fengyu to reply, Diamo Xian raised his brows. Diamo Xian replied with an N. Yi Fengyu was so shocked that he jumped back a few steps. I just wanted to ask you and my sister that your relationship is so close. My sister is a woman after all. After all, if she doesn't get married, her reputation, he stuttered and spoke incoherently. But Diamo Xian understood the meaning behind his words. Yiqing Luo's heart warmed. This brat was worried about her and concerned about her reputation. Although this place was a foreign world that had never appeared in history, it was still a foreign world. But it was still ancient times after all. Reputation was extremely important to a woman. Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian's relationship had been spread around the entire Nirvana realm. If the both of them didn't get married and this was spread out, Yiqing Luo would definitely be pointed at by others. Chapter 2144. Following Yi Fengyu's words. Yiqing Luo's heart involuntarily pounded along with the rhythm of Yi Fengyu's words. Instinctively, she raised her head and fixed her gaze on the man who was hugging her. From this angle, Yiqing Luo could clearly see Diamo Xian's expression. His rosy red lips were slightly raised, and his long and narrow peach blossom eyes were slightly raised. Clearly he was in a good mood. Yiqing Luo's little hand tightened on Diamo Xian's collar. He could feel the thundering heartbeat of the girl in his arms, and the hand that was grabbing his chest unconsciously curled up. Diamo Xian's lips curled up even more. Was his little Luo heir nervous? Previously, because Lil Luo had never thought of marrying him, the unhappiness he felt suddenly disappeared in that instant. His heart suddenly soared. He tightened his arms around the girl in his embrace. Her peach blossom eyes gazed deeply at Yi Fengyu. His deep brows were slightly raised. Dizun brother-in-law? Yi Fengyu was frightened by his gaze and stammered in a low voice. His heart was beating faster and faster, as if it was about to jump out of his throat. Clearly Dizun's brother-in-law looked very gentle. She also didn't show any displeasure because of his forced marriage. But why did he feel weak at the knees when he looked into his brother-in-law's eyes? He wanted to escape from the range of his gaze. Little Yu wants this lord to marry little Luo'er? Diamo Xian's thin lips curled upwards, his voice gentle. However, the atmosphere in the hall was so stiff that it was difficult to breathe. Yi Fengyu's body stiffened and trembled slightly. Obviously under Diamo Xian's aura field, she couldn't even stand firm. But he still stubbornly stood his ground, trying his best to raise his head, to look at Diamo Xian. Ziling carefully hid behind Yi Fengyu and hugged his arm. She whispered, "Young master, miss and the overlord must have their own thoughts on this matter." We, Yi Fengyu shook his head at Ziling, his eyes filled with determination. "This concerns my sister's reputation and future. No matter what, I must get to the bottom of this." Looking at the determined look on his young master's face, Ziling had no choice but to shut her mouth. The sect elders at the side were so scared that their calves were trembling uncontrollably. He clasped his hands together and racked his brain, trying to think of a way to stop Yi Fengyu's forced marriage. Was this the new sect leader or the new ancestor? The overlord did not answer for a long time. Obviously he had never thought of marrying Miss Qi. It was highly possible that the overlord was just messing around with Miss Qi. If the new sect master's forced marriage behavior angered Dizun, what about the Three Springs sect? How could the new sect master be so blind? The few of them were perturbed. His heart was about to jump out of his chest. Diamo Xian folded his arms and lowered his eyes to look at the young lady who was staring at him in a daze. The infatuation in the young girl's eyes pleased Diamo Xian. The corner of his mouth unconsciously curled up. In that instant, his entire aura was softened. After a long while, Diamo Xian raised his eyes. His face was magnificent, and his eyebrows were thick and deep. His peach blossom eyes flickered with a brilliant light. Yi Fengyu's heart tightened. His hands that were clenched tightly by his sides were clenched tightly. Little you should ask your sister about this. Diamo Xian lowered his eyes and gazed deeply at the person in his arms. Anyone with eyes would be able to see the emotions in his eyes. Huh? Yi Fengyu was confused. Chapter 2145. Yi Fengyu's eyes widened. Ziling's eyes sparkled with tears of joy and excitement. The sect elder beside him was astonished, then he took a deep breath. Sister. Yi Fengyu came back to his senses and immediately stared at Yi Qingluo. You heard what Overlord brother-in-law said. As long as you are willing, brother-in-law will marry you immediately. What are you waiting for? Why did she feel that she was also being forced to marry? Sister, what are you waiting for? Hurry and tell brother-in-law that you are willing to marry him. Yi Fengyu saw that Yi Qingluo was still silent and hurriedly grabbed her wrist. Cough. Cough cough. Yi Qingluo was stunned by Yi Fengyu's anxious expression. She hurriedly raised her hand and patted the back of his hand. Xiaoyu, marriage is not something that can be achieved just because you say so. Sister, aren't you anxious? Yi Fengyu held Yi Qingluo's hand tightly. You and brother-in-law are? He blushed and looked away shyly. If sister has brother-in-law's child in your stomach, what should we do? Isn't it better to get married earlier and have a legitimate reason for it? You stupid child. Who taught you to say all these? How would Yi Qingluo not understand what he was referring to when he didn't say it out? Her eyes widened and raised her hand to knock on Yi Fengyu's head. There's still a child. You already make me worry enough. I don't intend to give birth to another child to make me worry. Yi Qingluo rolled her eyes. That indifferent tone made Diamo Xian's eyes suddenly turn cold. The flame around him gradually subsided. Yi Qingluo continued, Don't let your imagination run wild. Your brother-in-law and I will get married sooner or later. As for the child, it will not happen for the time being. As for you, don't worry about this kind of thing. Just take care of Three Springs sect and be my most solid support. That's enough. The low pressure created by a certain man disappeared at this moment. A certain man's face revealed a proud and joyful smile. Look, his Lil Luo said it herself that they would get married sooner or later. Sooner or later. That meant that Lil Luo agreed to marry him. Look, his Lil Luo heir said, your brother-in-law, so naturally. It was obvious that she had long regarded him as her husband and husband. That was why she acted so naturally. A certain man was so happy that his tail was almost up to the sky. The sect elder beside him saw the change in Diamo Xian's expression. Bit by bit, the shock eroded his heart. The Overlord's love for 7th Miss. The Overlord's mood was completely influenced by Miss 7. The elders of the sect clenched their fists. He must properly assist the new sect master and not have any crooked thoughts. No matter what, they could never offend the Overlord. Alright, little you, be a good boy and follow your second brother and the elders to learn how to manage the Three Springs sect. Your brother-in-law and I will return to our courtyard to rest. Yi Qingluo raised her wrist and hooked her finger at Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu pouted unhappily and took a step back. Sister, I'm already the sect master. You can't always be like this. Yi Qingluo nestled lazily in Diamo Xian's arms. Her little finger hooked again as she said in a sweet voice, You're the sect master. That means you're my brother. Alright, this reason was very good and powerful. He had no words to refute. Chapter 2146. Yi Qingluo's palm touched Yi Fengyu's head. She smiled complacently, like a cat who had stolen a fish, and rubbed his head fiercely. Yi Qingluo only stopped in satisfaction when she saw her brother's meticulously combed hair was messed up. Ah Xian, let's go. Yi Qingluo retracted her hand, circled Diamo Xian's neck, and leaned her head on his shoulder. His scent filled her nostrils. Yi Qingluo closed her eyes in satisfaction. Yi Fengyu's soft grumbling was still in her ears. Looking at the scene of the siblings getting along, Diamo Xian shook his head helplessly. Little you, study hard. As long as you can improve to the extent that your sister is satisfied, brother-in-law will give you a rare weapon. Yi Fengyu's eyes lit up. Brother-in-law, really? Really? Will brother-in-law lie to you? Diamo Xian responded in a rare good temper. Yi Fengyu was ecstatic and couldn't help but clap and shout. After Diamo Xian carried Yi Qingluo out of the hall, Yi Qingluo could still hear the burst of surprised cheers in the hall. This child is really just a child. Yi Qing Luo looked at him teasingly. I think you can save this rare weapon. You have no confidence in him? Dmo Xian's steps were steady to avoid shaking the person in his arms. He wants to protect you and become your backing, then he will definitely be able to do it. Yi Qing Luo used the strength of his neck to straighten her back. Her face and Dmo Xian's face were facing each other. A pair of cunning fox-like charming eyes flashed with a strange teasing light. I say, Xian, you are the dignified overlord, noble and elegant, respected by the world, like a legendary existence. You actually spent so much effort to encourage a human with a little bit of talent in the lower realm. Yi Qing Luo giggled. Don't tell me, is it because little you called brother-in-law? The smile on Dmo Xian's face froze. His deep inky eyes shifted away unnaturally. Yi Qing Luo's smile widened, both hands held Dmo Xian's face, not letting him look away. Her bright eyes sparkled like colored glass. She smiled warmly. I was right, wasn't I? The man's face was forced to be unable to move away. He frowned and pursed his lips. Stop fooling around. Aren't you tired? Go back to the room and rest. Yi Qing Luo's smile was bright and beautiful as she swept a glance at the surrounding maids and servants. She threw herself into Dmo Xian's arms. Oh, you're embarrassed? How could Dmo Xian not see through the young lady's playful thoughts? His large palm firmly supported the girl's waist, preventing her from falling out of his arms. Before he could answer, the girl suddenly hugged his head with her hands. So what if you're seen? Everyone in the Nirvana realm knows that you're my man. The girl's elegant voice was filled with pride. She snorted and bumped her head against his forehead. Xian, I know that you like me so much. You always want to marry me. Dmo Xian left her forehead and held Yi Qing Luo tightly. He then freed one hand to rub her forehead. I want to marry you, are you surprised? The man's slender fingers gently caressed her head, the place where her head bumped against his forehead. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Not surprised, I've long seen through your soul and saw your deep love for me. Chapter 2147. Their shadows were projected on the ground. The tall figure leaned over, covering the petite figure of the young lady. Their shadows overlapped as if they were glued together. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered. After exchanging glances with Dmo Xian for a few breaths, she was the first to admit defeat and averted her gaze. Her little hand touched her face and found that it was boiling hot. She pursed her pink lips tightly and snorted softly. I'm telling you, don't think of cheating marriage now. Cheating marriage? Dmo Xian raised his brows, leaned close to her ear and breathed out teasingly. I really wish I could cheat you to stay by my side and not let you leave for even a moment. Hey, you, what are you doing? After being tormented by Dmo Xian last night, Yi Qing Luo's body was extremely sensitive. Under the warm breath, her delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Her slender and fair fingers unconsciously clenched the collar of his shirt. This man, exuding the male pheromones again, tempting her to commit a crime. I'm talking to you about serious matters, don't be so frivolous. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head to avoid his teasing. I'm already in pain last night, don't even think of touching me today. Hearing that she was in pain, Dmo Xian immediately moved his thin lips away and looked at her nervously. Is it painful? Let me take a look back in the room. If it's painful, you must apply medicine. Take a look back in the room? Apply medicine? Who did he learn this skill of acting like a hoodlum from? Didn't he feel ashamed to say such words? Yi Qing Luo pinched Dmo Xian's waist fiercely. If you continue to talk nonsense, I'll ignore you. The young lady in his arms blushed. Her eyes were full of resentment, charming and charming. Dmo Xian looked at the spot where he had been squeezed 3 inches down and a flame sprang up again. He held back his thin lips and pulled a smile, bent his head close to her ear and laughed softly. Didn't you say it's painful? Why did it become me talking nonsense again? Yi Qing Luo was furious, facing a shameless man. How could she talk back? Dmo Xian carried her and strode towards Yi Qing Luo's courtyard. All right, since you're not feeling well, go back to your room and rest for a few days. The academy did not urge you, rest at home for a few days, I won't touch you. Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly. She leaned her head against his chest. Dmo Xian's brows were tinged with smiles as his footsteps became gentler. Lil Luo, or what Xiao Yu said earlier actually makes sense. Our relationship now is no different from that of a marriage. It's better to get married as soon as possible. You're still talking. Yi Qingluo's little head arched against his chest. Dmo Xian continued to persuade, if you have a child and we're not married yet, wouldn't it affect the child's reputation? What child? Xiao Yu is spouting nonsense over there and you are spouting nonsense too. Yi Qingluo raised her head and stared at him. We're so close. It's only a matter of time before we have kids, isn't it? Dmo Xian halted his footsteps as he lifted her chin, his peach blossom eyes narrowed as he said unhappily, don't tell me that you've never thought about our child? Yi Qingluo turned red. She wanted to struggle but her strength was not as good as Dmo Xian's. She could only blush as she muttered, getting married is just a formality. Between us, there's no need for the so-called formality. Didn't we agree earlier? I will wait until I'm able to keep pace with you, then I'll marry you. After saying this, Yi Qingluo couldn't help but feel puzzled. In modern times, weren't all men unwilling to get married, thinking that it was just a formality? And to a woman, the wedding was the most important thing in her life. Chapter 2148. Dmo Xian sighed helplessly, I shouldn't have agreed to you that time. Are you questioning my ability? Yi Qingluo stared at him unhappily, her little fist clenched tightly and smashed towards his face. Dmo Xian pretended to be in pain. Yes, my little Luo, is so powerful, very soon she will be able to keep pace with me. Yi Qingluo snorted, with a proud look of a queen, she retracted her hand, that's more like it. Dmo Xian's eyes were dark, incomparably deep as he nodded with a warm smile. At this moment, all the maids and servants who were passing by saw it. Just a moment later, the overlord doted on their seventh miss to the bone, simply a henpecked husband. This news spread throughout the entire Three Springs sect. He carried her as they stepped into the courtyard. The silence between the two of them was a little strange. The courtyard door closed. His footsteps didn't stop. Entering the bedroom, Dmo Xian placed Yi Qingluo on the bed, pulled the blanket over and covered her up. Immediately he straightened up. Yi Qingluo looked at the peerless face in front of her. His lips curled up into a warm smile. Between his brows was his pampering towards her. But the atmosphere between the two of them was inexplicably strange. The more Yi Qingluo thought, the more upset she felt. Just as Dmo Xian was about to turn around to leave, she suddenly stretched out her hand and grabbed his wrist. Ah Xian. Dmo Xian's footsteps paused, his other hand stretched over and wrapped around her little hand. What's the matter? Ah Xian. The calmer he appeared, the more Yi Qingluo was concerned. She hugged Dmo Xian's arm and pulled him to the bed. Sit down. Dmo Xian's gaze fell onto her face, gentle and sorrowful. Little Luo, aren't you still crying out in pain? If you continue to invite me like this, won't it hurt even more? Yi Qingluo's cheeks blushed as she pinched his hand hard. Stop fooling around, sit down. Dmo Xian sat down obediently. Ah Xian, I know you're angry. Yi Qingluo's little hand was still holding his big hand tightly. Actually, what Xiao Yu said, I have considered it for a long time. She took a deep breath, raised her head and met his gaze. It's not only you who wants to get married, I also want to be open and above board to let the entire Nirvana realm and even the upper realm know that you, Dmo Xian, belong to me, Yi Qingluo. But the look in her eyes was complicated. You should know from Beiyuan that, not only is my father not Yi Tianquang, my mother is also not my mother. Dmo Xian didn't hide it and nodded to admit it. Tang Beiyuan was the secret guard that Dmo Xian had arranged to protect her in the dark on behalf of Wind. Tang Beiyuan must have seen everything that had happened to her in the dark. Moreover, Dmo Xian had rushed over in such a timely manner. It was probably because of Zhu Wuxin's appearance. Dmo Xian was very clear about Chu Wuxin's feelings for her. Tang Beiyuan knew that as well. Because of this, when Chu Wuxin brought the wind chimes as a gift to Yi Qingluo, as Dmo Xian's subordinate, Tang Beiyuan felt a sense of crisis for her own master. Hence, she decisively used their imperial palace's exclusive method to inform Dmo Xian about this matter. Because of this, when Dmo Xian rushed over, she could feel the scorching heat from Dmo Xian's body and the perspiration on his forehead, as well as that unstable breathing. Because of this, Yi Qingluo was certain. Tang Beiyuan must have told Dmo Xian in detail about these few days' matters in the morning when she was still sleeping. Chapter 2149. Yi Qingluo lowered her eyes and stared at the big hand that was held by her small hand. The fingers with distinct joints were extremely slender and beautiful. She couldn't bear to let go and kept holding it. I'm only 15 now in the place where I grew up. This age is really too young. At least, you have to wait for me for another 5 or 6 years. The current her was still considered a child. According to the education from where I came from, giving birth before the age of 23 or 4 is not only harmful to your own body, it will also harm your own baby. In another 5 or 6 years, her body would be considered as fully developed. Pregnant with Dmo Xian's child. That was health and the safety of mother and child. Alright, I'm not urging you to give birth. Dmo Xian looked at the girl's serious expression and couldn't help but laugh. Yiqing Luo grabbed his hand tightly. I'm serious, you're not allowed to laugh. Alright, I won't laugh. Dmo Xian looked like he was trying to hold back his laughter. Yiqing Luo pouted and unhappily shook off his hand. Xian, do you know my background may not be that simple. Dmo Xian's expression froze. Yiqing Luo noticed the change in his mood and smiled helplessly. Right, even you have noticed it. Yes. Dmo Xian didn't deny it. Your innate talent, your profound heart jade, and the dark forces as well as Godless Island trying every means possible to push you into the pit. I have some guesses. When Bei Ming died, he said he hid something for me, something related to my biological father. Yiqing Luo leaned into his arms. I didn't open the box. Old Man Song said he sensed a very powerful force in the box. That powerful force will cause Nirvana realm to no longer be peaceful. Dmo Xian frowned. What is it? Don't know, I didn't open it. Yiqing Luo shook her head. Old Man Song said that the force exceeded Nirvana realm, and even surpassed his power. As she said, she pursed her thin lips and raised her chin on his chest. Old Man Song is the spirit of the Azure Dew Bracelet, an old monster who has lived for thousands of years. Even he is in awe of the power. That is absolutely not a power that I can contend against. So, you didn't open the box and didn't check for any clues regarding your father? Dmo Xian's fingers gently brushed aside the stray hair on her forehead. Yiqing Luo replied with an N in a small voice. I think when my ability is strong enough, then I can go look for my father. Based on my current ability, even if I know who my father is, what can I do? There was something about her father, something so powerful. It was so strong that even Old Man Song had to admit defeat. This meant that his father was not someone from the Nirvana realm. The Nirvana realm was the lowest realm in the entire alternate world. That also meant that she had found clues about her father and knew who her father was. She didn't have the ability to look for her father and find out about her origins. And, about my mother. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyelids. Old ancestor said that Yi Tian Kuang wanted the thing in my mother's hands. For that thing he didn't hesitate to spend more than half of his life. That thing is very likely on me. Do you know what it is? Dmo Xian also found out about this matter from Tang Beiyuan. Chapter 2150. A clue to a powerful and unimaginable father. A person who possessed a mysterious item that made the head of the Three Springs sect, one of the 4 major sects, obsessed for most of his life, even marrying a woman he didn't love, to become the official wife of the Yi family. Whether it was a clue to his father, or a clue to his mother, it showed that both of them were extraordinary, not simple. Xian, if my father and mother were ordinary people, I am willing to marry you now. But I can't. Yiqing Luo's little hand stretched over and held one of his fingers. The softness wrapped around his finger. Dmo Xian's heart suddenly softened. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her long curly eyelashes fluttering like butterfly wings. She pursed her pink lips, her cheeks slightly flushed. Xian, our relationship, our feelings actually don't need anything to prove it. Just like what I said before, marriage is just a formality. I love you just like you love me, we are a match made in heaven and are destined to be together. Otherwise, why would I come all the way from the 21st century to this strange world? I firmly believe that it is all for me, is to meet you. The young lady's voice was extremely sweet and soft. Low and soft voice as if she was shy. This look made Dmo Xian's heart palpitate. He stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. His eyes were deep and his gaze was lingering. Yiqing Luo was defeated, her little hand gripped his finger tighter and continued, Xian, you are very powerful and your identity is distinguished. Dmo Xian was stunned, his thin lips moved slightly and was about to say something. A slender and soft finger pressed against his lips. And with the fragrance of a woman's hair. Xian, let me finish. Yiqing Luo half knelt by the bed, her finger pressed against his lips. Soft skin rubbed against his lips. like a feather, gently stirred Yiqing Luo's heart. Her face turned redder, not daring to look at Demo Xian's sexy and charming face. No one knows where you come from, how powerful you are. She tried hard to say what was in her heart. You are very mysterious, mysterious island. I know you are hiding a lot of secrets. I also know that you didn't tell me because I'm not strong enough. Even if I knew everything, I wouldn't be able to help you at all. Instead, I might even be a burden to you. Therefore, in order to become a woman who is worthy of you, the Overlord, who is able to help you, the Overlord, I must choose to strengthen myself, improve myself, and work hard to catch up to you. Dmo Xian's deep, inky peach blossom eyes were like a pond of spring water, completely Yiqing Luo's peerlessly beautiful face. His arms tightened, hugging her tightly. Lil Luo air, I am willing to wait. Yiqing Luo's arms hugged him tightly as she buried her head on his shoulder. Ah Xian, I won't let you wait for too long. As long as I find my biological parents, if it's possible, we'll get married under the witness of my biological parents. Her eyes were full of smiles. This will definitely be very satisfactory. All right. Dmo Xian inhaled the fragrance from her body and understood what Yiqing Luo was thinking. He had heard Yiqing Luo mention about her modern life. He had no parents since he was a child. He followed the group of old men from the Yi clan and underwent inhumane torturous training. Then she arrived here. The Yi clan had hurt her deeply. To say that she didn't care about kinship, in actual fact, it was all fake. If Yiqing Luo could find her biological parents, it would mean that she had become extremely powerful. At that time, she would definitely have the ability to look down on the prosperous world with him. If she could add on the blessings of her biological parents. Using Yiqing Luo's words. Just 2 words. Chapter 2151. Yiqing Luo's face was buried in his chest. It also covered the faint melancholy between her brows. Her background was too complicated and strange. She appeared in the Yi family out of nowhere and became a descendant of the Yi family. Her mother even let her sit on the position of young matriarch until she was 15 years old. This was too abnormal. Why was it the Yi family? She still remembered that she was the young matriarch of the hidden Yi family in the 21st century. Only she could enter the Yi family's ancestral tomb. There was no doubt that she was the descendant of the Yi family. So she must have some connection with the Yi family of the Nirvana Realm's Three Springs sect. That was why she was placed in the Yi family. Behind this was her so-called biological parents' plot. Or someone else? Yiqing Luo had no way of knowing these. The only thing she knew was, her future path had to be taken step by step, steadily and slowly. Otherwise, a little carelessness might. Yiqing Luo restrained the glint in her eyes as she suppressed all her thoughts. She had to figure out her own background. Figure out the truth of that year. In this way she could be at ease and be together with Dmo Xian. This concerned the future of both of them. She could not allow any accidents to happen to the both of them. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her eyes sparkled as she gazed at Dmo Xian's face, revealing a bright smile. Ah Xian, I love you. The young lady's starry eyes were ravaged, but the warmth in her eyes was like the warm sun in early spring. Bit by bit, it seeped into Dmo Xian's heart. The arm around her waist was tightly wrapped around her slender waist. The man's hot body pressed down. Yiqing Luo's delicate body seemed to be ignited. The man's low and sexy voice was still beside her ear, teasing her little heart bit by bit. Her delicate body trembled slightly as her little hand grabbed Dmo Xian's collar and pushed him away. Stop, Ah Xian, don't be so touched that you want to express your excitement by touching me. Dmo Xian's kiss was about to fall, but was blocked by Yiqing Luo's hand. He didn't move his lips away. The warm thin lips were imprinted on her fair palm. His lips curled slightly. His thin lips rubbed against her palm, causing Yiqing Luo's hand to tremble slightly. Instinctively he wanted to retract his hand. Dmo Xian's large palm suddenly grasped her little hand, preventing her from escaping. Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo bit her lips shyly as she growled his name. This man, if he continued to flirt like this, something bad would really happen. She was not a woman who could be flirted with. It was getting to his head. She didn't care about anything else and directly pounced on him. Dmo Xian's lips were still attached to her palm. When he heard her voice, he looked up. Yiqing Luo was looking at him from this angle. She just met his eyes. Her body couldn't help but feel numb and her legs couldn't help but go soft. That pair of bewitching peach blossom eyes were devilishly seductive. It was as if he was tempting her to sink into his demonic charm. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red in an instant. Diamo Xian delightfully curled his thin lips as he teased, "Is Lil Luo shy?" Yiqing Luo stared at him resentfully. He was so seductive, it would be strange if she wasn't shy. If she didn't feel shy, he should be panicking. Hearing the teasing tone in Diamo Xian's words, Yiqing Luo expressed that she couldn't continue to flirt with Diamo Xian like this. That part was really in pain from Diamo Xian's torment last night. She couldn't withstand the seduction from his beauty. If she went into battle with an injury and saw blood, that would be terrible. Young people must control themselves. Yiqing Luo brainwashed herself in various ways in her mind. Chapter 2152. An envelope appeared in Yiqing Luo's hands. Yiqing Luo pushed Diamo Xian away as she shifted her two little legs backwards. Diamo Xian only swept a glance at that envelope as he didn't put it to heart. Looking at the distance between the young lady and himself, there was more than half a bed's distance. His rosy red thin lips curled upwards as his gaze filled with adoration fell onto Yiqing Luo. "Lil Luo, you're not feeling well, so I won't touch you now." Diamo Xian bent over slightly as he tried to fish the young lady out from the bed. Yiqing Luo slapped his hand away. "Don't come over, sit there and don't move." Diamo Xian helplessly retracted his hand as he coaxed warmly, all right, I won't go over and I'll listen to you." "But, Lil Luo, isn't that area hurting? Let me take a look first. If it's really painful, then I'll apply medicine." He only thought that Yiqing Luo was in pain because of last night's torment, hence she wasn't willing to be intimate with him today. You still dare to say?" Yiqing Luo had just opened the envelope when her cheeks flushed red from Diamo Xian's words. "Don't say any more. Don't you know what shame is?" Diamo Xian's smile became even more devilish. "There's only the two of us here, what's there to be shy about? Moreover, which part of your body have I not seen before?" Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of embarrassment as her wide-opened eyes started to burn with sparks. She clenched her teeth as she pounced towards Diamo Xian's direction. Her two little fists were clenched tightly. Rushing up, she punched Diamo Xian's exceptionally handsome face, which was filled with teasing smiles. Her hand had just waved and a piece of yellowish paper floated down from the envelope. That piece of paper was extremely thin. It was obviously yellowish, but it gave off a strange energy. When Diamo Xian's eyes looked towards the paper, the teasing smile on his face instantly froze on his face. "This is..." Diamo Xian held onto Yiqing Luo's hands, which were waving over as he used a little strength to bring her into his embrace. Following that, the other hand picked up the thin piece of paper. "This thing, where did you get it from?" Lying in Diamo Xian's embrace, Yiqing Luo could obviously feel that Diamo Xian's aura had turned solemn. Obviously he knew this kind of paper and had seen it before. Realizing this, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up obviously. She happily climbed out of his arms. "Ah Xian, do you know this kind of paper? Do you know which realm this thing came from?" Diamo Xian's fingers gently stroked the paper, and the more he touched, the more grave his expression became. "This thing definitely doesn't exist in the lower realm." He didn't directly answer Yiqing Luo's question, but indirectly admitted that this piece of paper indeed came from another plane. Yiqing Luo didn't pursue further. She struggled free from Diamo Xian's embrace and knelt on the bed, slowly spreading out the paper. It looked like a thin piece of paper. When it was spread out, it occupied half the bed. This paper. Wasn't it the map which Yiqing Luo had found in the secret compartment in her mother's room? "I think Yi Tianquang probably wants to obtain this map from my mother." Yiqing Luo's hands were propped up by the side of the map, as she stared at the densely packed complicated routes on it. When the map was completely unfolded, Diamo Xian's body stiffened. He stared at the dazzling map in a daze. It wasn't until he heard Yiqing Luo's voice that he regained his senses. Chapter 2153. Yiqing Luo nodded. "Yes, this is what my mother left for me, but the route on it is too complicated. Even after such a long time, I can only remember half of the route in my mind." Pausing her words, she raised her eyes in puzzlement and stared at Diamo Xian. "You know what this map is and where it came from, right?" Diamo Xian's gaze retracted from the map little by little. His breathing was still faintly uneven. Obviously his heart was not calm. "Little Luo, keep it first," he said with a complicated expression. Yiqing Luo frowned. Diamo Xian's expression, why did it look So strange? Keep it first. Diamo Xian rubbed her head. Oh. Yiqing Luo used her peripheral vision to look at the expression on Diamo Xian's face as she refolded the map. She put the map back into the profound phoenix ring. She immediately climbed to Diamo Xian's side and leaned her head on his shoulder. I'll keep it. Diamo Xian lowered his eyes. His long eyelashes cast an arc under his eyelids. The expression on his face was unprecedentedly dignified. Yiqing Luo didn't rush him, quietly nestled in his arms. She knew that this map must be hiding a huge secret. And it was absolutely the thing that Yi Tianquang wanted to get from her mother. A map that didn't belong to Nirvana realm. The map that Yi Tianquang racked his brains to get. And let Diamo Xian. Such a heavy map. Diamo Xian needed a short period of time to sort out his feelings when he saw this map in the lower realm. The silent time passed by in a flash. After a stick of incense, Diamo Xian's tense body finally moved. Yiqing Luo leaned in his arms and felt it most clearly. She immediately straightened her body, gently fanned her long eyelashes and looked at him quietly. Little Luo, this map is called Profound Flame W Chart. Diamo Xian's voice was somewhat tense and his tone was extremely flat. Profound Flame W Chart? This? What kind of name was this? But it sounded like it was very powerful. You must keep this map well. You must not expose it to anyone. Otherwise, not only will the Nirvana realm be in trouble, I'm afraid the entire alternate world will fall into an endless battle. Diamo Xian said as he shut his eyes wearily. The Profound Flame W diagram was with Yiqing Luo. Should he rejoice or worry? His tall figure leaned against the headboard. His slender fingers stroked the sore spot between his eyebrows. Your mother should have told you about the importance of the arcane flame W diagram. He sighed lightly. Diamo Xian's look made Yiqing Luo's heart feel perturbed and uneasy. She leaned towards Diamo Xian's side and her charming eyes looked at his face without blinking. When I got this map, my mother had already passed away. Diamo Xian's eyelids twitched. Old man Song has never seen this map before, so he doesn't know where the route is drawn on the map. Yiqing Luo continued. Diamo Xian abruptly opened his eyes. Yes. That old man, call him out. Xian, what's the secret of this map? Tell me first, this map is likely to be related to my life experience. Yiqing Luo held Diamo Xian's arm. She always felt that Diamo Xian didn't want to talk to her about the Profound Flame W chart. Chapter 2154. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and finally nodded in compromise. She placed her palm on the Azure Dew bracelet and activated her divine sense. Last Luo, you and Diamo Xian are like glue. Why did you call this old man out to join in the fun? Old man Song's spiritual body floated out of the Azure Dew bracelet. You two youngsters are so sticky. Do you want this old man to see you two lovey-dovey? Are you sure you can continue to be so intimate with this old man? Old man Song had obviously just woken up as he lazily yawned. When his entire spiritual body floated out of the Azure Dew bracelet. Only then did he realize. The atmosphere between the two of them, who were originally stuck together, was a little strange. Old man Song looked at Diamo Xian, who was sitting on the bed with a grave expression. Then he looked at Yiqing Luo, who was sitting on the other side, staring at Diamo Xian without blinking. He looked left and right. He suddenly clapped his hands. You two, don't tell me you two are quarreling and looking for this old man to mediate? After he finished, he floated one round around the two. These two people were so sticky when they met. They couldn't wait to become conjoined twins. Since yesterday when Diamo Xian appeared, Old Man Song decisively blocked the Azure Dew bracelet from the outside world. He didn't expect that in just one day something happened. He shook his head and lectured, you two don't? The map in little Luo's hand is the Profound Flame W diagram. Diamo Xian opened his mouth lightly, interrupting Old Man Song's lecture. Young couple fighting in bed. Old Man Song's floating spiritual body suddenly rushed in front of Diamo Xian. What did you say? Profound Flame W diagram? Diamo Xian calmly nodded. Old Man Song's mouth opened wide, his face full of disbelief. After a long while he recovered from the shock and turned to look at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo blinked and nodded uncertainly. That map. Xian said it is the Profound Flame W diagram, but... This W diagram, what is it? Old Man Song's pale lips trembled. His white beard fluttered along with his breathing. Then his eyes met with Diamo Xian's. The room fell into silence again. Yiqing Luo looked at the man in the spiritual body as her pretty face instantly turned stiff. What kind of riddle are the two of you playing? Is there anything that you can't tell me? Arousing my curiosity but not telling me, that's the same as arousing my curiosity but not. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian stretched out his long arm and pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. A broad and thick palm covered Yiqing Luo's lips, preventing her from saying those shocking words in front of Old Man Song. In any case, Old Man Song was also an elder. Dmo Xian held her in his arms. He lowered his eyes. Against the light, his eyes were as deep as the sea, making it difficult to see through him. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and pouted unhappily. Both of you know what the Tianshu map is except for me. Lil Luo, it's not that we don't want to tell you, but it's the safest for you if you don't know, do you understand? Dmo Xian's palm slightly exerted force as he hugged her head into his embrace. His lower jaw was pressed against her head, his voice was low and hoarse. That thing could easily bring about a fatal disaster. I don't want anything to happen to you. Fatal disaster. These 4 words struck Yiqing Luo's heart. She remembered that when she saw her mother's letter, her mother had reminded her, never ever let others know about this map, otherwise it would bring about a fatal disaster. Looking at Yiqing Luo's dazed and silent look. Chapter 2155. Lil Luo, let me put it this way. Dmo Xian looked at her sternly. With this map, compared to you with the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, you are more tempting. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as she squinted. She naturally understood that the arousal in Dmo Xian's words was not referring to the arousal between a man and a woman. Instead, he was tempted by his prey. Yes, prey. Previously, when he found out that the Profound Heart Jade in her body was the only one in the world, the heaven-defying Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. She knew it. If the news that the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade was in her body were to spread, she was everyone's prey. It wasn't just the Nirvana realm that would come to hunt her down. Even the people from other realms, even the people from the upper realm would hunt her. Now she heard what Dmo Xian said. This map, known as the Mystic Flames W diagram, was even more important than the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. From this, it could be seen how great the secret hidden on the map was. Just like what Dmo Xian had said. She did not know the details of this map. Only then would it be safer. Lil Luo. Dmo Xian lowered his head to look at the dazed young lady. The shock and astonishment on her face clearly showed that she really didn't know what the Arcane Flames W diagram was. Yiqing Luo looked at him blankly when she heard his voice. Dmo Xian glanced at Old Man Song who was floating at the side. He had not completely recovered from the news of the W diagram. His eyes were empty and lifeless as he stared ahead in a daze. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze, his peach blossom eyes were deep and reserved. His gaze locked onto Yiqing Luo. The 2 large palms that were holding onto her arms slowly tightened their grip. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's arm was hurting from the pinching as she called out to him softly. Ever since she took out the W diagram, Dmo Xian became very strange. He didn't just know what the W diagram was. Furthermore, it was highly possible that there was some unspeakable secret between it and the W diagram. Little Luo, listen to me. Dmo Xian suddenly pulled her into his embrace. His long body enveloped Yiqing Luo tightly. Yiqing Luo's face crashed into his solid chest. She was in so much pain that she wanted to raise her hand to rub her face. Before he could voice out his complaints, her waist was immediately held by the man's large palm. She buried herself even deeper into his embrace. The rich scent of sandalwood and the scent of male hormones filled the air. Fuck. Yiqing Luo found it hard to breathe. He wanted to struggle. But the man seemed to be able to predict her next move. He could always trap her hands before she wanted to struggle. Yiqing Luo simply gave up on struggling and turned her little face to another direction in his arms. What was wrong with this man? She was about to be suffocated by him. Yiqing Luo was still adjusting her breathing position. Suddenly, her body was abruptly pulled a distance away from the man. Dmo Xian lowered his head and stared into her dazed eyes, as though he had mustered up a huge amount of courage. He said word by word, "Haven't you always wanted to know why I am in Nirvana realm?" His voice was very low and his breathing was a little heavy. Yiqing Luo's heart was lifted. In that instant, the confusion he had felt just now was answered. "You're here for the W diagram?" Yiqing Luo looked at Diamo Xian in a daze as she voiced out her guess. The arms around her waist tightened even more, as though she was afraid that he would escape because of this. His arms were like an iron wall, trapping her in his embrace. Chapter 2156. F***K. It was really any melodramatic. Yiqing Luo's heart was racing with 10,000 curses. She didn't speak. Diamo Xian panicked. The overlord who had always been noble and elegant, towering above thousands of people, was revered by everyone. Right now his face was flustered. His eyes revealed a trace of cautiousness and fawning. He seemed to be in a very low mood. He lowered his head and pillowed on her neck, not daring to look at her eyes. After knowing my motive, you don't want to talk to me anymore? Hate me? His voice was very soft. She could tell that he was extremely upset. Yiqing Luo's pupils gradually focused. Just as she was about to speak, the man helplessly opened his mouth again, his voice lowered a little, adding a trace of disappointment. Lil Luo, don't keep quiet. I know to you, this may indicate betrayal, but... Wait. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, interrupting his words. Two little hands propped on Diamo Xian's chest, pushing him. Diamo Xian, what are you talking about? Hearing the young lady's response, Diamo Xian instinctively let go of her. Yiqing Luo got off the bed and took a few steps back. Then she raised her head to look at him. She discovered that the man's usual high-spirited, confident eyes, as though everything was in the palm of his hand, was exceptionally clear. He only looked at her attentively. His eyes revealed pain. Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but soften. Since when did her man lose so much confidence in her? To prevent the man's imagination from running wild again, Yiqing Luo could only walk to the bedside. Both her hands cupped Diamo Xian's face, met his gaze and asked seriously, Diamo Xian, I only have one question for you. Diamo Xian looked straight at her determined eyes. Before this, did you know that the Tianshu map was on me? Yiqing Luo spoke slowly, extremely clearly. That frustrated man whose face was filled with nervousness and disappointment, shook his head blankly. No. Then that's it. Yiqing Luo pinched his cheek. Your motive in Nirvana realm is to search for the Tianshu map, but before I took it out you didn't know that the Tianshu map was on me. Then you wanting the Tianshu map, liking me and being together with me has nothing to do with it. How could this possibly indicate betrayal? The young girl's sweet voice was soft and gentle. The young girl's soft and tender fingers touched his cheek. Just a light touch was enough to move his heart. Moreover, the person who wants the heavenly pivot map, if it's you, I can give it to you. Yiqing Luo's arms hugged his neck as she pressed her petite body onto his. Diamo Xian's heart soared. The young girl's words made his heart so happy that he was about to ascend to the heavens. His little Luo air was indeed different from ordinary girls. She knew that his goal was the Dubhe map, but she still chose to trust him. She clearly knew the importance of the Dubhe map. Furthermore, the Dubhe map was related to her mother, yet she was willing to give it to him. He was already secretly rejoicing. Fortunately, he came to the Nirvana realm to find the Dubhe diagram. He was looking for the Dubhe diagram. Only then did he have the chance to meet his Lil Luo. In this life, to have Lil Luo, he was so lucky. Did you forget what I just said? Diamo Xian pinched her delicate nose. The Dubhe diagram is more important than the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, yet you still gave it away so easily? You personally came to the Nirvana realm to find the Dubhe diagram, which is enough to prove the importance of the Dubhe diagram to you. Yiqing Luo looked at him seriously. To me, nothing is more important than you. The Dubhe diagram was indeed important. It was something that her mother had left for her. Perhaps it was related to the clues of her mother. But if Diamo Xian needed the Dubhe diagram, Chapter 2157. The young lady's serious words were filled with affection. That sweet and soft voice entered Diamo Xian's ears one by one. It almost filled his heart with honey. You silly girl. Diamo Xian tightened his arms and pulled her into his embrace. Keep the Dubhe map well, don't take it out easily, understand? Yiqing Luo raised her head and placed her chin on his chest. I'm serious, and the Dubhe map is safer with you than with me. My previous goal was indeed to find the Dubhe map. Diamo Xian smiled, his slender fingers touched her pink lips. But now, my goal is to protect you who owns the Dubhe map. Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Knowing that the Dubhe map is with you, I don't need to specially look for it. Diamo Xian bent down and kissed her lips. Since your mother left the Dubhe map to you, it means that this Dubhe map belongs to you and only you can use it properly. Yi Qing Luo pushed him. Old man Song was still watching by the side. Diamo Xian suddenly turned serious. Lil Luo, it's not that I don't want to tell you about the Dubhe map. If the time is right, I will tell you the secret of the Dubhe map and the reason why I need it. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head, with a smile on her face. It was a devastatingly beautiful sight. Her hands pinched his face again. I know, I will work hard to cultivate and grow. Alright, stop being so lovey-dovey, you two. Old man Song, who was in the background, couldn't bear it anymore. I'm still watching, you two are kissing and hugging, do you still treat me as an elder? Yi Qing Luo hooked Diamo Xian's neck and turned to look at old man Song, who was floating above the gauze curtain. Dang, I'm expressing to old man Song that we are very loving, don't worry. Old man Song's white ball and the gauze curtain had almost blended together. He rolled his eyes at Yi Qing Luo. His spiritual body floated down and pushed Yi Qing Luo out of Diamo Xian's embrace. Look at your red face, go stand at the door and enjoy the wind, you're a lady, be more reserved. Yi Qing Luo, why was her face so red that she didn't look reserved anymore? But she did not refute. She took a deep breath and accepted the excuse old man Song gave her. She patted her clothes, held her sore waist and waved her hand. Fine. I'll stand at the door to enjoy the breeze and suppress the fire in my heart. She blew a kiss at Diamo Xian and walked out of the bedroom, closing the door behind her. She left decisively. Naturally, she understood. Old man Song and Diamo Xian had something to say. Moreover, it was about the Dubhe diagram. Old man Song was her artifact spirit. Although he could appear in his spiritual form, he couldn't be too far away from her. All she could do was stand at the door and let the old man and the young man chat slowly. Yi Qing Luo didn't eavesdrop. She really wanted to know the secret of the Dubhe diagram. But Diamo Xian's words made a lot of sense. Knowing now would do her no good. From Diamo Xian's and old man Song's expressions, she could tell the importance of the Tianshu map. For this thing, Yi Tianquang had sacrificed his position as the first wife, and spent most of his life grinding, enduring, and begging. For this thing, the noble and elegant overlord stayed in the Nirvana realm for so many years, and even built the imperial palace. Indeed, it was more important than the divine phoenix profound heart jade. This kind of thing was beyond her ability to bear. Chapter 2158. Their conversation didn't take too long. Before the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the room's door opened with a squeak. Yi Qing Luo heard that and looked behind her. What she saw was a purple flowing light flashing past her eyes. The next moment, her waist was tightened. The man's wide and thick palms held her slender waist in his palms. Ah Xian done talking? Yi Qing Luo's pink lips rose as she leaned into his arms. Diamo Xian held her into the room and closed the door. And remember to keep the Tianshu map well, old man Song will remind you. I know. The two entered the room and old man Song had already sneaked into the azure dew bracelet, leaving the two of them alone. Oh yes, there's also this calming pearl. Yi Qing Luo took out the calming pearl. I let old man Song take a look. There's no other presents left on the calming pearl, take another look. Yi Qing Luo placed the calming pearl in Diamo Xian's hand. There was once when the dark forces made use of her profound jade heart. Yi Qing Luo indicated that she had to be careful at all times. After all, the calming pearl was something that suppressed her profound jade heart. She absolutely couldn't let any external factors cause her to be controlled by the dark forces to happen again. Diamo Xian held Yi Qing Luo's little hand as his palm covered her palm. Her palm felt scorching hot. Yi Qing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly as she wanted to withdraw her hand. A man's low voice came into her ear, "Don't move." She didn't move again. A warm current came from the place where their palms were touching. It was Diamo Xian who released his profound qi. Yi Qing Luo quietly held her breath. The distance between the two was very close. The feeling of his breath on her body was extremely clear. She blinked her eyes as her gaze moved up and down Diamo Xian's body. She could see Diamo Xian's dense and long eyelashes that were even more attractive than her own. That peerless face indeed had the capital to make people go crazy for it. Yi Qing Luo's eyes stared at his face without blinking. How could Diamo Xian, with his strong perception, not feel it? Moreover, that gaze really made him have an uncontrollable impulse. Diamo Xian glanced sideways and just happened to meet with Yi Qing Luo's pair of infatuated eyes. Their eyes met. Her eyes were bright and her gaze was scorching. Just by looking into each other's eyes, Zhang Xian felt as though he had been electrocuted, and the sensation coursed through his entire body. This man was truly a monster. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as she avoided his line of sight. There's no problem with this tranquility pearl. Dmo Xian's tone was filled with a pampering smile. Yiqing Luo's face turned even redder. She struggled her hand out from Dmo Xian's palm. The little body fell onto the bed. Lifting up her 2 little feet, she stepped on Dmo Xian's chest. No problem, then I have no problem. Now this empress wants to rest, little Xuanzi can rest. Dmo Xian just stood up. He was kicked by Yiqing Luo's 2 little feet. He reached out with his large palm and grabbed her foot. Yiqing Luo exerted a little strength and kicked him twice. Little Xuanzi, you dare to grab my leg. The moment she kicked him, her body froze and her little face turned slightly pale. She gave a hiss as she sucked in a breath of cold air, wanting to cry but no tears came out as she held onto her waist. Ioyo, my waist is so sore. Just moving her 4 limbs slightly, her entire body felt a kind of sore and numb feeling. Especially the 2 sides of her legs, as though they were chopped off and then sewn back together. Soft, painful and sore. Chapter 2159. Alright, lie down and have a good rest. Dmo Xian held her little feet in his palm when he saw her crying out in pain. Squeezing her feet, Dmo Xian was about to let go and cover Yiqing Luo with the blanket. His body had just bent down. His chest was hammered again. Dmo Xian didn't manage to react in time as his chest felt stuffy and he coughed violently. Hee. Little Xian, who asked you to bully me, I'll kick you to death. Accompanying Dmo Xian's coughing sound, Yiqing Luo's joyful laughter was heard. Yiqing Luo's little feet kicked Dmo Xian's chest harshly. After that, she quickly wanted to retract her feet. But the man's reaction was faster. Before he could retract his foot, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Her feet were locked tightly by Dmo Xian's hand. There was a strange atmosphere in the air. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened as her laughter stopped. She bent down and took a careful look at Dmo Xian. Her little feet moved and her voice became softer. Dmo Xian, you let go of me. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled upwards as his narrow peach blossom eyes shone with an extremely bright and scorching light. That light was enough to ignite everything. He bent down slightly as his large palm was still wrapped around her 2 little feet. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her heart pounded. The temperature on her body started to rise under his gaze. Little Luo, if you continue to tempt me, I can't guarantee that I can still control myself. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes were half squinted as his deep voice was hoarse, revealing an obvious emotion. That voice was like a soft feather, tickling her heart bit by bit. Tickling her heart. Dmo Xian gazed deeply at the young lady on the bed whose face was flushed red. That creamy complexion was flushed with a bashful crimson red. That pair of clear and charming eyes were like silk, emitting a charming glow. The more he looked, the more his heart contracted. His long body couldn't help but tensed up. He suppressed his impulse and restrained his desire as he grabbed her feet and placed it at the side of his lips as he planted a fierce kiss. Yiqing Luo's petite body shook as though she was electrocuted. Her face was burning hot, so hot that it could almost cook an egg. He the overlord actually kissed her feet. Aren't you afraid of losing face if this spreads out? Yiqing Luo was embarrassed and annoyed, but she also knew that she and Dmo Xian were not on the same level, and totally not his opponent. She buried her face in the bed. Go and do your work. I'm going to sleep. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on her leg and a low husky laugh came from the depths of his throat. This smile simply made Yiqing Luo's amorous heart flutter. She blushed and kicked him. Dmo Xian touched the sole of her foot. Have a good rest. If you're still not feeling well tomorrow, then postpone reporting to the academy for a few days. Yiqing Luo ignored him. I'll be back soon. Miss me? Dmo Xian said again. Yiqing Luo twisted her little body, still ignoring him. His foot, which was being grabbed, gradually loosened. The atmosphere in the room was calm and quiet. Yiqing Luo laid on the ground for a long while and really didn't hear the man's voice. Biting her lip, she got up unhappily and looked behind her. His heart was filled with a sense of loss. Her petite body was suddenly hugged tightly. A gentle yet domineering kiss landed on her lips. The thick scent of a man's sandalwood filled her nostrils. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened, filled with astonishment. Chapter 2160. He didn't leave. Yi Qing Luo's heart was instantly covered with sweetness. This man's skill in picking up girls was really full points. Different tricks could bring her different surprises and sweetness. This kiss lasted until both of them were out of breath. Only then did they let go. Yi Qing Luo's face was flushed red as she fell into Diamo Xian's arms. Diamo Xian gently stroked her hair. His slender fingers were extremely gentle, revealing a strong sense of love. "Little Luo, protect yourself, don't force yourself." Diamo Xian whispered in her ear, "In a few days I will send Xian over, let him and Bei Yuan be your secret guards." Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes and panted slightly. "Xian? Is he Bei Yuan's fiancé?" "Yes." Diamo Xian kissed her forehead. "Remember my words, no matter if it's the Profound Heart Jade or the Tianshu map, it can only be a secret. If there's anything you can't solve, tell me through the Profound Phoenix Ring." Yi Qing Luo nodded obediently. Her little head rubbed against his arms. "You have to be careful too. After the matter is settled, let's go to the upper realm together." The hands around her waist suddenly tightened. Yi Qing Luo clearly felt that the man's chest had hardened a little. She raised her head and wrapped her arms around his neck. "Just now outside the door, I also thought that Nirvana realm can no longer satisfy my growth. I think I should go to the upper realm, grow along the way, and at the same time search for clues about my parents." Although Yi Qing Luo wasn't clear about the clues about her father and the Tianshu map, but she knew these two things must have come from the upper realm. Her background could only be revealed when she went to the upper realm. More importantly, her aim was to grow, to go to a more powerful place, to recultivate, to learn and grow. There was no longer any existence in Nirvana realm that could trigger her advancement. Diamo Xian released her waist and slightly opened up the distance between them, lowered his head and touched her forehead. "Okay, I'll accompany you." Yi Qing Luo smiled. Something warm and soft brushed past her forehead. Her eyelashes trembled slightly. In that instant, the warmth that had surrounded her dissipated. Her fingers scratched unconsciously. She could only grab onto one hand, the air that was still lingering with the man's sandalwood scent. He left. He only stayed for a day before leaving. Although he knew very well in his heart, Diamo Xian had actually found out about Zhu Wu Xian's appearance and specially rushed over to eliminate his love rival. It wasn't that the matter of the imperial palace had been resolved, but seeing him leave in such a hurry, she couldn't help but sigh. In her heart, she was still very reluctant. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and pressed on her own heart. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes and fell onto the bed. She actually knew that the reason why Diamo Xian was in a hurry to leave was not just because of the imperial palace, but because, Dubhe diagram. The reason why Diamo Xian was in the Nirvana realm was to search for the Heaven's Pivot map. Now, the Dubhe diagram was with her. Regarding the Dubhe map, it was time to give Diamo Xian some time to sort it out. This Dubhe diagram. No matter if it was for her mother, or for her to be able to prove her true identity in the future, or for Diamo Xian, she had to keep it well. The Dubhe diagram descended. The world would definitely be in chaos. It seemed like it was for the secret she had. She had to grow up as soon as possible. Chapter 2161. In the dense forest of the high mountains, the trees were shaking and the leaves were rustling. Occasionally there were birds and beasts, cutting through the dense forest, sprinkling a strange light. At the top of the mountain, a tall figure stood on the edge of the peak, facing the wind with his hands behind his back. The luxurious purple robe, like rolling purple flowing light, was fluttering with the biting cold wind. But, no matter how strong the wind around, that figure was already standing there majestically. After a long while, a calm, weather-beaten voice, as if it had experienced the vicissitudes of life, leisurely rippled on the mountain. "Boy of the D family. What wind actually blew you here?" That tall figure still stood against the wind as if he did not hear this sentence. Then, on the mountain, a hurricane suddenly rose. Ring after ring of Xian waves, like ripples, spread out in the air one after another. The sand and stones on the ground under this hurricane rolled into a tornado. Even the huge stones on the side were blown away. That tall figure stood steadily on the edge of the mountain. If there were others at this time, they would definitely have a heart attack by this thrilling scene in front of them. "Oh, haven't seen for many years, the profound grade has improved again." That voice sounded again. Along with the sound, that rolling tornado, like a huge spider web, rushed to the edge of the mountain, turned into a raging wind. That figure had no time to react. He was completely swallowed by the tornado. Above the mountain, laughter resounded. But the laughter had not been vented to the fullest. Suddenly the mountain shook violently. Only to see the place where the tornado hit was broken by a powerful momentum. A purple figure flew out from the hurricane. With a wave of his sleeve, a ray of purple light flew out and turned into a sharp blade. In an instant the entire mountain was flattened. Not far away, a small thatched house was instantly pierced by the sharp blade. But in a flash the thatched house became thatch, and it was broken into pieces of thatch. Boy of the D family, you've gone too far. Looking at his thatched house become like this, that voice was exasperated. Then, not knowing from which direction, a figure sprang out. That voice scurried out and struck a palm towards Diamo Xian. If you waste any more time, this lord will raze this mountain of yours to the ground. Diamo Xian turned around and placed his hands behind his back, looking at the incoming palm strike with a calm expression. Just as the palm wind was about to hit Diamo Xian, the momentum of the palm suddenly stopped. Diamo Xian looked at the person in front of him indifferently. The person in front of him was dressed in an elegant moon-white robe, which made her delicate and soft body look exquisite and curvaceous. He was right. It was a woman. Furthermore, it was an extremely stunning woman. That kind of beauty was extremely flamboyant. Coupled with her temperament, there was no sense of disharmony in her beauty. He was aggressive and domineering. Diamo Xian's gaze was fixed on the woman's face for several breaths. This lord is here because I have something to ask you. You destroyed my house the moment you arrived, and you even wanted to raze my territory to the ground. Now you want to ask me a question? How shameless. The woman rolled her eyes at him without any hesitation. Diamo Xian's eyes were gloomy as he stared at the woman and said word by word, "This lord has found the Dubhe map." The expression on the woman's face gradually stiffened. After a long while she asked, "Where is it?" Chapter 2162. Who is it? The woman's expression sank as a trace of ruthlessness flashed past her eyes. Diamo Xian took a step forward and strolled to the woman's side. His thin lips moved slightly as he lightly spat out a few words. Nirvana realm is not peaceful if you don't want the other world to be in chaos. I advise you to strengthen the security. Nirvana realm? The woman narrowed her beautiful eyes as a piercingly cold and domineering aura gradually dispersed. Is the Dubhe map really in Nirvana realm? That time, Diamo Xian went to Nirvana realm to look for the Dubhe map. She only treated it as a joke. Unexpectedly, Diamo Xian really found the whereabouts of the Dubhe map in Nirvana realm, that inferior realm. Diamo Xian glanced sideways as he looked at the woman from a high position. His voice was cold. Nirvana realm is the territory that I chose. The woman's heart trembled. She didn't expect Diamo Xian to treat her with such an attitude. Could be seen that Nirvana realm had a very deep obsession with Diamo Xian. She rolled her eyes as an indifferent expression appeared on her gorgeous face. I'm not interested in the inferior realm, but since the Dubhe map is there, I will strengthen the security of Nirvana realm. The woman seemed to have thought of something as her beautiful eyes flashed a trace of demonic light. Speaking of which, since you already know the whereabouts of the Dubhe map, why didn't you bring it back? Diamo Xian narrowed his eyes. What does it have to do with you? I'm just reminding you not to let unnecessary feelings affect your future. The woman chuckled. After all, if you succeed, then I can follow you. To ascend, isn't it? Diamo Xian's half-narrowed peach blossom eyes were piercingly cold. Facing Diamo Xian's deep and cold gaze, the woman's lips curled into a teasing arc. Why? Did I poke into your thoughts again? Her words paused as her curved willow leaf brows raised frivolously. No choice, who asked me? To be the person who understands you the most. Diamo Xian frowned as his peach blossom eyes were as black as ink with a cold glint. Baisu, don't think too highly of yourself. The woman covered her mouth as she laughed out. Kid from the Imperial Palace, I haven't heard you call me by my full name for a long time. The woman stepped forward, her face filled with curiosity. I'm suddenly interested in the Nirvana realm. Since I have to increase the security around the Nirvana realm, why don't I go personally this time? Baisu. Diamo Xian stared coldly at the woman. The strong wind around him stirred up his emotions, blowing his black hair that fell over his shoulders. Her complexion was slightly pale, giving off a cold feeling. His appearance was extremely mature and profound. Fine, I won't tease you anymore. The woman raised her hands in surrender. Her beautiful face was like a blooming rose, extremely beautiful. Dmo Xian turned and left. Hey kid from the Imperial Palace, the Dubhe diagram is no small matter. As for you, you wanted to hide the whereabouts of the Dubhe map, but you also said that there were others who also sensed the existence of the Dubhe map. If you can't protect the Dubhe diagram well, don't blame us for interfering. The woman called out to him with a serious expression as she looked at Dmo Xian's back. The man stopped in his tracks, his eyes sharp. You're meddling too much, old lady Baisu. The woman's expression stiffened. Immediately she suddenly went berserk. A slap, carrying thousands of wind waves, rushed towards Dmo Xian like a surging tide. I'll kill you, you ungrateful brat. Dmo Xian's figure moved. He had long disappeared in the high mountains. Chapter 2163. Leaving the towering mountain range. The expression on Dmo Xian's face turned extremely indifferent. Between his brows, there were emotions of contemplation. Dark forces. Godless island. These two forces would mysteriously entangle Yiqing Luo. It was probably because of the Dubhe diagram. This map had always been in the care of Yi Fengyu's mother, the madam of the Yi clan. Yi Tianquang should have married Yi Fengyu's mother for the Dubhe diagram. But, if the clue was on Yi Fengyu's mother, Yiqing Luo wasn't a descendant of the Yi family. Not only did she have no blood relations with the Yi family, she also didn't have any blood relations with Madame Yi. If the Dubhe diagram was to be handed over, it should be handed over to Yi Fengyu. He remembered that Godless Island's three evils had once tried to snatch Yiqing Luo's profound phoenix ring. Perhaps it was to search for the Tianshu map on Yiqing Luo's body. Whereas the dark forces kept on using profound Yinqi to get close to Yiqing Luo. The dark forces wanted to obtain Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade, and they wanted Yiqing Luo's body, which could nurture the divine phoenix profound heart jade, to be the vessel for the profound heart jade, and to control it in their own hands. Furthermore, he would make use of Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade to search for the whereabouts of the vast water god relic. Yiqing Luo didn't know, but he was very clear. The collective vast water divine artifact would become a key. As for what kind of key it was, no one knew at the moment. However, the only thing that could be confirmed was the vast water divine artifact and the Dubhe diagram were inextricably linked. Looking at Godless Island, making use of Dao Yigan to disguise as Shishanglan to get close to Yiqing Luo, brainwashing the devil classes students in an attempt to gain Yiqing Luo's trust. Then, after being exposed, directly making use of the treasure house auction house, he set up a god array to send Yiqing Luo to the 21st century. Then he thought of the netherworld he had encountered in the 21st century. Yu Ming took out that crystal ball named Tracking Search Bomb, and followed Yiqing Luo into the Yi family's ancestor's tomb. What it was tracking and searching for was probably the Tianshu map. He could not find it in the Nirvana realm. Godless Island set its sights on their ancestor's tomb in the 21st century. Bit by bit, the clues gradually became clear in his mind. Dmo Xian's eyes were cold and indifferent, turning even more icy cold and incisive. Although Lil Luo didn't like him interfering in her matters. But he had to make a trip to Godless Island. His little Luo heir, no one could be bullied. West Continent, Three Springs Sect Mansion. Yiqing Luo rested in Three Springs Sect for a full 5 days. Until the Heavenly Academy sent someone over to urge her, Yiqing Luo still had no intention to go to the Heavenly Academy. These few days Yiqing Luo shut herself in the Azure Dew bracelet, cultivating non-stop. First, she used the Dragon God's furnace to refine pills for her 2 holy beasts that were still in deep sleep. That stock of returning heaven primordial serene grass, which was worth 70 million gold coins, along with a bunch of precious herbs that could help to raise profound strength, were thrown into the furnace as if they were free. If there were any knowledgeable bystanders present at this time, they would probably be so shocked that their hearts would not be able to take it. Not to mention the returning heaven essence serene grass that was worth 70 million. As for the other precious medicinal herbs and herbs, if it was placed in an auction house, it would definitely be a medicinal herb that everyone would go crazy over. Yiqing Luo totally didn't care about it. After the refining was successful, Yiqing Luo directly fed these pills, which used up a large amount of precious medicinal herbs, to the 2 holy beasts. This made those Qiao Jin and the rest who followed Elder Yun Yun to urge Yiqing Luo to go to school after Yiqing Luo came out of her closed-door cultivation. Chapter 2164. Was there a need to waste God's gift like this? Qiao Jin and the others expressed how they wished they could be Yi Qing Luo's war pet. Yi Qing Luo looked at those pairs of eyes which were flickering with a wolf's glint as she rolled her eyes. Forget it, there's a share for my two little treasures, so naturally there's a share for all of you too. Qiao Jin's wolf's glint grew as he pounced over directly. Ah! Madam Qing Luo, Goddess Qing Luo. You're our faith. Yan Xiaoyi, who was standing by the side, grabbed onto Qiao Jin as her face was filled with black lines as she face-bombed. Slut Jin, stop embarrassing yourself, come back here. Qiao Jin flailed his arms, with a look as though he wouldn't give up until he got the pill. This pair of clowns made the atmosphere in the room ease up by quite a bit. Yun Duan was all smiles as he stroked his white beard as he looked at Yi Qing Luo. Student Yi Qing Luo is indeed Ghost Doctor's only disciple. I'd not expected to be able to refine this kind of high-grade pill successfully. Furthermore, from the sounds of it, the quantity wasn't little. Generally speaking, the higher the grade of the pill, the lower the success rate and the lesser the number of pills refined. Like the heaven-returning primordial serene grass, which was a 1 in 1,000 years precious herb, coupled with so many rare medicinal herbs, even if one's luck was off the charts, to be able to refine one pill was already a joyous occasion. Not only did Yi Qing Luo succeed, moreover, not just one pill. That was a pill refined from the heaven-returning primordial serene grass. Based on Yi Qing Luo's pill refining ability, she would absolutely be able to advance to the next grade or even breakthrough. Yun Xiang, who was following behind Yun Duan, a glint flashed past his eyes. When Yi Qing Luo heard Yun Duan's praise, she humbly raised her pink lips. You can only get what you're willing to give up. These are all extremely precious medicinal herbs, so the success rate is naturally higher. Our student Yi Qing Luo has the Overlord's full support, Mu family and the entire Alchemist Guild's full support, and also Treasure Gathering Pavilion Shi siblings. Yun Xiang walked out from behind Yun Duan as he smiled. Of course student Yi Qing Luo is willing, indeed you can only get what you're willing to give up. Yun Duan's expression congealed as he suppressed his voice and berated, Yun Xiang. Yun Xiang seemed as though he didn't hear anything as he continued asking with a smile. Student Yi Qing Luo, how many heaven-returning serene pills have you refined this time? Just as Yun Xiang finished his words, the faces of Qiao Jin, Yan Xiaoyi and the rest instantly turned ashen. What did he mean by the Di Zun before him and the Mu family after him? Even the Shi siblings were dragged into this? Wasn't this obviously ridiculing their Qing Luo for only knowing how to rely on others? Yan Xiaoyi sneered. She couldn't hold back her temper. Elder Yun Xiang, why do I hear that your words sound so sour? Why, my Qing Luo has refined a high top-grade pill and you're envious and jealous. Yun Xiang's smile froze as he glared at Yan Xiaoyi. She was just about to open her mouth to refute when Tong Ziqing, who had a cold expression on her face, slowly walked forward and stood in front of Yan Xiaoyi. Her cold and beautiful aura was completely released. Elder Yun Xiang, you're an elder of the Heavenly Academy and represent the Heavenly Academy. Such baseless words coming out from your mouth, it represents the Heavenly Academy to be doubting our Qing Luo, that we have relied on this and that to get to where we are today, today's status. Tong Ziqing's voice was cold and indifferent as her lips curled into a sneer which didn't reach her eyes. Chapter 2165. Yun Xiang couldn't refute at all. Yun Duan pulled Yun Xiang behind him and revealed a kind smile. Student Yi Qing Luo, this old man is here to invite you back to the academy. As for alchemy, that's your private matter, we shouldn't ask too much. Elder Yun Yun is still the most sensible. Yan Xiaoyi scoffed and glared at Yun Xiang. Yun Xiang's face alternated between green and white. To allow a student to be so impudent, how could he, as an elder, maintain his dignity in the academy in the future? However, without waiting for Yun Xiang to attack, a clear and melodious voice interrupted him. I've left the academy for so long and I miss the academy life. Today let's go back to the Heavenly Academy. Yun Duan heard this and laughed. Actually, with Yi Qing Luo's current strength, she doesn't need any guidance from the academy. Student Yi Qing Luo is the most talented student I have ever seen. His words weren't to flatter Yi Qing Luo. That was the truth. A supreme expert of the sky profound realm. In the Heavenly Academy, most of the masters were not Yi Qing Luo's match. Yi Qing Luo had completely achieved the ability to graduate. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. Elder Yun Duan, what are you talking about? No matter what my profound grade is, I am still a student of the Heavenly Academy. Yun Duan laughed. Good. 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 She will not become arrogant just because she is strong. Student Yi Qing Luo's temperament is worthy for the Heavenly Academy students to learn from. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. Yun Duan gave Yun Xiang a look, signaling him to shut up. Following that, he walked over to Yi Qing Luo. Student Yi Qing Luo is now the pride of the Heavenly Academy, and also the hero in the hearts of all the students. If you can return to the academy, you will definitely be able to bring the students of various classes to work hard and cultivate. Elder Yun Duan need not flatter me, I'm just an ordinary student in devil class. Yi Qing Luo shook her head modestly. Let's go to the academy now. Of course, she had to make a trip back to the academy. The dark forces had fallen. It was time for the Heavenly Dean to step down. Otherwise, how could he face the students who had died in the flame nest? Yi Qing Luo was a person who would definitely take revenge. The Heavenly Academy dared to scheme against her. Then he had to be mentally prepared to bear the consequences. The group of people headed towards the Heavenly Academy in a mighty manner. This scene quickly spread throughout Three Springs City. For example, Heavenly Academy's #1 Grand Elder personally welcoming Yi Qing Luo back to the academy. For example, Yi Qing Luo was the biggest signboard of the Heavenly Academy, so this year's best academy would still be the Heavenly Academy. For example, Yi Qing Luo heard the cries of alarm and the commoners' discussions. They also knew that it was the Heavenly Academy's intention for them to be surrounded by the crowd as they walked on the road in a mighty manner. It was to make use of her current reputation to help the Heavenly Academy. Yi Qing Luo sat on the soft carriage which was supported by a few of the Academy's servants, as she lazily leaned against the cushion. He couldn't be bothered to wave his hand and sell a smile to the people around him. Why did she have such an attitude? In the eyes of his diehard fans he was handsome and cool. Cloud rode a brown horse and followed the carriage at a steady pace. He glanced sideways as he smiled at Yi Qing Luo. That's right, student Yi Qing Luo, the principal asked me to bring you a message. What? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows when she heard that. Cloud Duan stared at Yi Qing Luo's expression without blinking. He said, he has agreed to your conditions. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she smiled without any surprise. Many thanks to Elder Cloud Duan for bringing the message. The General Hospital would agree to her request. Chapter 2166. I'm very curious, what is the condition that director mentioned? Yun Duan asked straightforwardly. Yi Qing Luo liked this kind of straightforward person as she smiled sweetly. This is a secret between me and the academy. Yun Duan laughed loudly and didn't continue asking. Only occasionally that profound gaze would sweep past Yi Qing Luo, as though he wanted to know what Yi Qing Luo was thinking about. Or perhaps he wanted to know what secret Yi Qing Luo was hiding. Although Yun Duan was an old fox. But how could Yi Qing Luo, this little fox, let Yun Duan see through her emotions so easily? The corners of her mouth were still curving upwards. Her eyes were calm without any ripples. But in her heart, she was replaying what she had said to the academy's director in her mind. The academy's director had agreed to her request. That meant that the current her and the World Mercenary Group had an inseparable relationship with the academy. They were on the same boat. The World Group had the academy's support. Their future development would definitely be impressive. When they reached the academy, they hadn't had the chance to hold a special welcoming ceremony. Suddenly they saw a lady dressed in a student's attire running over in a fluster. Oh no, oh no! Someone from the upper profound hall is here. Those students who were originally crowding at the academy's entrance, preparing to welcome Yi Qing Luo, instantly quietened down when they heard this sentence. The students opened up a path. That female student rushed to the academy's entrance. Elder Yun Duan, the director has been looking for you. Yi Qing Luo had just stepped down from the carriage as she raised her eyes to look at that female student. Xiaoyu? What happened? That female student was the current vice president of the faculty council, Lu Xiaoyu. On seeing Yi Qing Luo, Lu Xiaoyu's pretty face revealed a joyous expression. She took a step forward and rushed in front of Yi Qing Luo, hugging her fiercely. Qing Luo. Long time no see. Long time no see. Following that, without waiting for Yi Qing Luo's response, she let go of Yi Qing Luo and rushed towards Yun Duan's direction. Elder Yun Duan, quickly go to the field. Director alone can't withstand the pressure from the people from the upper profound hall. Yi Qing Luo. Good gay friends hadn't seen each other for a long time, shouldn't they give each other a warm hug? Just a hug was enough? Profound hall? Yun Duan's face darkened. Why are there people from there? I don't know. Seems like they are looking for someone. Lu Xiaoyu replied in a panic, the elders have all gone over. The dean asked me to find you and let you go over to negotiate. Yun Duan frowned and looked at Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Talk to you later. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly and nodded. Elder Yun Duan, please go ahead. The news of Upper Profound Hall's arrival also dispersed the crowd of students to welcome Yiqing Luo's joyous mood. Everyone was guessing what the Upper Mystic Hall was. Why did the dean and the elders all have such grave expressions? This atmosphere inexplicably became somewhat heavy and oppressive. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to pull Lu Xiaoyu as they walked past the students and slipped into the academy. The group of people slipped into the academy dormitory. There was no one else in the dormitory. Yiqing Luo dragged Lu Xiaoyu to sit beside the wooden chair. What is the Upper Profound Hall? Chapter 2167. Yiqing Luo shot a glance behind her. Qiao Jin thought for a moment, then said, Second floor of the library, the Ghost Doctor's Medicine Refining Room, Heavenly Training Forest, Heavenly Ancestral Hall. He paused and looked at Yen Xiaoyi. There shouldn't be any other place? I don't think so. Yen Xiaoyi shook her head. The students of the Devil class for so many years had been training by themselves in the courtyard of the Devil class. As for the internal affairs of the Heavenly Academy, he did not understand much. The Heavenly Academy's biggest forbidden grounds seemed to be these four places. Yiqing Luo turned to look at Lu Xiaoyu. Lu Xiaoyu nodded solemnly. The Upper Profound Hall is the Upper Profound Ancestral Hall. The people who live there, that's right, they were humans. The people who lived in the Ancestral Hall. The Heavenly Academy's Ancestral Hall, although it was called an Ancestral Hall, was actually an independent courtyard. Apart from the annual ritual, even Principal Zhang was not allowed to approach the courtyard. The students did not pay much attention to this Ancestral Hall. Hence, it was not only the Devil class students who did not know about it. Shangshuan Ancestral Hall. The other students of the Heavenly Academy did not know much about this Ancestral Hall. Live in the Ancestral Hall? The corner of Qiao Jin's mouth twitched. Could it be that the Heavenly Hall is the old ancestor of the Heavenly Academy? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. She actually had some impression of this Ancestral Hall. At that time, she had specially scanned the entire academy and mapped out the route of the academy in her mind. He also passed by this Ancestral Hall. Ancestral halls and whatnot were the golden treasures for acting cool. She thought about sneaking in. However, he was stopped by Old Man Tsang. The reason was that the Ancestral Hall of the Heavenly Academy was filled with the memorial tablets of the previous deans of the academy, which gathered the aura of the various deans. If he got too close, his spirit body would be harmed. Yiqing Luo then dispelled the idea of exploring the Ancestral Hall. Unexpectedly, behind this Ancestral Hall was the so-called Upper Shen Hall. Furthermore, the status of the Upper Mystical Hall in the academy was clearly very high. The dean could not hold on any longer. All the elders went to welcome him. At that time, Old Man Tsang had stopped her from entering the Ancestral Hall. It was probably because he had sensed the aura of the Ancestral Hall. DMO Xian came to the Heavenly Academy a few times. It was unknown if he had noticed the Shangshuan Hall of the Shangshuan Ancestral Hall. Xiaoyu, this Upper Shen Palace, has disappeared for such a long time. Why did they suddenly appear in the academy in broad daylight this time? Yen Xiaoyi looked at Lu Xiaoyu and asked curiously. Lu Xiaoyu shook her head. Not long ago, the people from the Profound Palace suddenly appeared on the field. When the president received the news, he rushed over and kowtowed to that person 3 times and 9 times. He asked me to immediately call the dean and the elders over to welcome him. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Si Yen Mu had met the people from the Upper Profound Palace? From the looks of it, he must have seen it before, Lu Xiaoyu said. You said the Upper Profound Hall is looking for someone. Do you know who they are looking for? Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. Lu Xiaoyu shook her head. I don't know. I didn't even get a good look at the people from the Upper Mystical Hall before I was chased away by the president to call the principal and the elders. The people from the Upper Shen Palace suddenly appeared at this moment. It wasn't that Yiqing Luo was narcissistic. She had a feeling that the people from the Upper Shen Palace were probably aiming for her. Thoughts had yet to settle down. Outside the dormitory there was a sudden knock on the door. Yun Xiang's voice was heard. Student Yiqing Luo, are you inside? Come out quickly, the envoy from the upper profound palace wants to see you. Whatever she said really came true. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. She expressed that if she couldn't continue on in the future. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.